Hello. It's Wednesday. Oh, I should probably get out the chat. Also announce that I'm going live. You would think that I would learn my lesson by now. I'm just gonna update that in the Discord. If you are interested in joining, the link is in the profile. I'm not always the most consistent at updating the Discord, but I'm working on it. I'm working on that. I also just started an Instagram for the stream. I will be the first to admit that I have a resistance to technology. This is ironic with, you know, me having a lot of work experience in digital media. Primarily, that is what my experience is in, and like social media management. But also, I think I just associate it with work. So, how should I even do this? I can be so annoyed of social media. Uh, Let me see. I'll do this. They added something called Instance on Instagram. I haven't been on Instagram for a minute. I know this is really riveting content that you're tuning into right now. Okay. I just announced it. Now that I've gotten that out of the way, I know that's a ringing endorsement for my social media presence to be following me on all these platforms. But I had a friend recently, best friend, chosen family, that was like, he was like, you could be doing more marketing with your stream. So I was like, oh yeah, I'm looking to grow things more. And like, I know, I just get annoyed because I am more like a Luddite in personality, in how I move about in the world, which, like, original Luddites were people who were resistant to the Industrial Revolution and advocated for uh, destroying some of these industrialized machines that were taking away people's jobs. And look at where we are now because of the Industrial Revolution. We haven't really been on the receiving end of anything profitable or helpful that is disseminating more information that is helpful and distributing wealth in meaningful ways since then. We've just been kind of taken for a ride by robber barons and nothing has changed. So that's my bleak outlook on technology. But it is necessary. And you know what? Perhaps there is room for someone like me who has a disdain and annoyance for most technology, but especially when it comes to social media. Particularly in this moment when we see it just fracturing democracy right and left, making it so people are subservient to these technoligarchs. So we'll see. We'll see how I build out these platforms. But anyway, that's the ringing endorsement. It's another day, another stream in fascist America. Welcome to whatever this is, an attempt at providing education, advocacy, and a little common sense in this digital wasteland. I'm Aubri Devashrayee. As a quick rundown for what happens on this stream, Mondays, typically we go over global and national events. Current event roundup is what I call it. Tuesdays, we talk about statewide, because I'm in Utah, local news that is happening, especially with this data center, the data centers that are being built. I am highlighting a lot of that coverage. Wednesdays, which is today, I like to have band book club. But before that, talk a little more about history, if I have time, revolutionary history that is deeply related to the banning of books, limiting information to the public, and how we actually resist oppression. There is a reason why they don't want us to read certain things, why they don't want us to know certain kinds of history, because guess what? It would piss us the fuck off, as it should. So, Thursdays are dedicated to education and coverage on community and labor organizing, especially as that is happening locally in Utah, where I'm located, but also just in the nation and world at large. And we need more information on just how to do this in a way that is streamlined but effective, especially when there are so many amazing people that are doing the hard work each and every day for this kind of organizing, seeing what we can learn from them. And on Fridays, we have Culture Corner, where I'm thinking about starting some lessons of culture, like singing lessons, dance lessons, perhaps cursive lessons. I know Gen Z and younger Gen Alpha, Beta, or whatever you're called now, that people give you a hard time for not knowing cursive. I primarily write in cursive, and I realize that this is a huge issue even for people who know how to write in cursive. Many people have a hard time reading my handwriting. So it is a bit self-interested to be like, maybe I should teach people so they can read my handwriting. But also, it's just like a beautiful art form in my mind. I do realize that it is very classist and colonized, so calling that out. But it was one of the few ways I found in more like Western culture that really valued a sense of calligraphy and art within handwriting, especially growing up in the time of like millennial, like hot girl handwriting. That was never for me, of like bubble letters and shit. I'm like, I am a poser if I do that. That does not resonate with me. And writing in print is not my strong suit. So there you go. That's a quick overview of that. Lessons that may be coming. Also piano lessons, other lessons, art history, because I believe firmly in democratizing education and knowledge so that it is easily accessible and there are not all of these barriers to entry, especially when it comes to the monetary barriers and class barriers, which are, ingratiated with these monetary barriers. And also, I talk about the art that I'm excited about, whether that is in the past or the present. I cover all of these things. And I also take suggestions or submissions that people recommend throughout the week on the stream from chatters, but especially if people are part of the Discord and they submit ideas for Culture Corner, I go over that. And I am going to be honest with you, I may not choose what you submit or recommend for Culture Corner if I don't like it. And I reserve that right. That's my prerogative. Because everyone's allowed to have their own taste, and if I feel like it is not my particular taste, I don't care to show it. It doesn't mean that it's bad or there's something wrong with it. Well, maybe sometimes it's bad. But it also just means that, like, this is an individualized space that I like to highlight what I like. It doesn't mean that you're not allowed to like what you like. Because in my mind, actually establishing your own opinions and desires and tastes, this is a critical thinking exercise. Especially in this day and age when there are so many algorithms and social media platforms that control these algorithms that are telling us to essentially like be the same person, to like all the same things and conform. That's like really tacky to me. And I'm not interested in that. Sameness is a form of fascism, something we discussed in The Giver, a previous banned book that we just finished. So, there you go. That's a quick overview. We'll see if I cut that up and put it on TikTok or whatever. The ticking, talking that the young ones are doing. The tick-tocking of the clock. Click, clock. I'm gonna stop. I'm intentionally being dumb, but I don't think there was any payoff to what I just did. Sorry. Okay, so let's get into what we have going today. We're reading The Bluest for Banned Book Club. It already is just such a treat to be reading. It doesn't mean that it's always like positive. Like, it is really happy subject matter, but it is very important and profound. So I originally said, like last week, I was like, oh, we're gonna read up until this section, and then didn't, because there was so much to be going through in the section, because this is just what Toni Morrison does, is pack her writing full of profundities and symbolism and important history, because she really did her research, and also is just incredibly smart and wise and has so much that is just packed in her art. So once again, I did not go to the point that I said we would last week when I announced it. But this is, again, because of everything that I want to talk about. I have copious notes that I want to be going through, and I think this is what is required of us when reading her art, that we have to give it the time it deserves and make sure that we are picking up on all of these nuances, which, again, like, there are plenty of things I'm sure that I'm missing, but this is why I also want to go over other people's perspectives when reading this book, so watching some of their content. And if you're interested in reading this book, I highly recommend it. I am only, 15 pages in, 14-ish, and it already is just blowing my mind, as I knew it would, having read her stuff before. Not this particular book, but anyway, we'll do that. Before we get into that, I did want to catch up on some current local events that are happening that we didn't get to yesterday, especially with data centers. There also is this update with AOC that is related to data centers that I wanted to cover. And then we'll get into Banned Book Club, and then we will continue with literature story time. Yeah. Chapter 27. Working through all of Chapter 26's anti-Semitic bullshit, calling that out. It's really difficult to read and like makes me embarrassed to read. Like anytime there is shit like that in these older books that are considered classics. But we need to confront it and we need to talk about it, especially in this day and age when we have the conflation of Zionism and Israeli genocidal policy with Judaism and what it means to be Jewish, and how it is necessary to separate these things if we are honest about confronting the evils of Zionism. So, and also making it so that people's humanity is not being stripped away in the meantime. All right. That's the overview. Long-winded, but there you go. So I saw this video, another one by R.M. Brown. I did say earlier in the week and sometime last week we'll keep watching some of the episodes of the faux podcast The Onion is creating on true crime. We will continue this, but seeing this new R.M. Brown video come out, I did want to watch it. And it is called Joe Rogan's Most Hated Guest Returns. And I don't know who he's even talking about, so we'll see, shall we? Hello, Tan. Welcome. How are you doing? Good to see you. How are your teeth doing, by the way? Especially with all the work that you had done. That's a lot. But also necessary. Okay. So let's give this video a watch. Get a little hee haha in there before we get into more serious subject matter, shall we?
I don't want to wait for our lives to be
toilets.
We're live. Oh, God.
When am I going to get this right?
Oh, thank you for subscribing. Subscribe for 4 months. Yay. Thank you. Oh, you got your left side done today. Oh, you really are going through it with all of the dental care. But cavity free. That is great. Love to hear that. Also, this frame that I is wild. I'm glad. I hope that you can have a speedy recovery. Also, if you ever have, I know you mentioned like writing poetry. If you ever have any submissions for Culture Corner, I would love to show them.
Hey guys, welcome back to the show. Hey guys, welcome back to the
Hassan Parker
program. I'm your host,
Hassan Parker.
Oh man, guys, we've created a lot of beautiful, hilarious, memorable drops on this channel. And I think I found the stupidest
Zach
one.
And Raiders,
the stupidest drop
welcome. We're talking about current happenings locally. Welcome, Bounce House. Good to see you. We're also going to be going over Banned Book Club. We're reading The Bluest Eye, which is just spectacular. Genius. So stay tuned for that. Hello, Sweet Pyro of Cairo. That's a great name. Textures Plunky. Good to see you. Thanks for being here. What all were you discussing on Zach's stream today? I mean, just wonderful educational content per usual. This is the beginning of the stream where we watch some humorous videos before we get into the heavier subject matter. This is R.M. Brown. He recently has been talking about some of the AI data centers that are being built, especially in Utah. Utah rarely gets much coverage in general in the media, let alone like national or international coverage. So this is part of the reason why we started watching his stuff. I was just recently introduced to him. He's funny, very unserious, but we also need that in this moment of idiotic fascism. Just chilling. To do. I don't know what that means. What is that? Do tell. You love RM? Yeah, he really, like, he provides good commentary, but in, like, such an unserious way that actually makes it stomachable. You know? Where he's, like, talking about all of, he's talking about all of these right-wing nut jobs. And I appreciate that because I don't want to just watch them on my own. They meant Dota 2. Oh, I still don't know what that means. Do tell.
Ever created, here it is.
Adult.
Hassan Parker.
We'll be right back.
I love when he laughs at his own jokes. Look at these two bald babies laughing. Nothing wrong with being bald, but what is happening here? My pronouns are he, him. Please respect that text. Okay, can do. I know all the theybies, hi, we always default to theys.
It's always a pleasure to have
No
you in
problem.
here. Folks, stick around
Anytime,
because Jamie
man.
and I are going to talk about something. I have to make an apology to Theo Vaughn after this.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to issue an apology because
This is a human man. This is a human man. I don't like the human dollar.
okay, man, great.
What?
Man. Oh man, so there's a little controversy that Joe is
So we're getting a new Theo Vaughn little soundbite for the soundboard that he has.
Oh,
Also, I've said this before, but what is this mic that he has? Like, I have never seen a mic like that before. I don't know if any of you have. Why did Zach create a new Twitch account? Yeah, that's a great question. Oh, it's his gaming channel. Okay. I don't know if I've seen his gaming channel, but I love that. What games does he typically feature there?
well, I don't know, wrapped up in who knows? Who cares? I was seeing this all over the internet yesterday. It was like, oh man, look what Joe did. You know, and all these videos that are like, Theo's sick of this crap.
Oh, okay.
Theo
Connecting
is
the
now
dots.
in a field
That's the
pointing at
game.
himself saying,
This is a human man.
and this is because Joe did this crazy thing where he
Dota
went in
2
front of
gaming
4
time.
trillion people and he's like, I think Theo. You know, I think Theo, who's my son,
Hello,
who I
Zeo
consider to be my
Duke?
son and my baby, I
Is
think
that
he might be
correct?
thinking about
Am I saying
ending
that right?
it, man. I think this is the best venue for this kind of thing. You know, 4 bazillion.
I realize that this is not the platform to be confessing this. I am not much of a gamer. So, the irony of being on Twitch. But there you go. I do occasionally play word games, which I am very prideful about. But that also is like grandparent status, I feel. Zeo Duke. Perfect. Okay, amazing. I'm a fake gamer. Okay, we're all in this together then.
Strangers. I think Theo's mentally ill.
I think Theo's
Yeah, I'm not
mentally
gonna
ill to the
pretend
point
to
of he's
be
gonna end it, man.
someone I'm
It's
not.
like, okay. And
For
so
better
Joe,
or
you know
worse.
what? Credit to Joe. He
The
does
world
right
can
thing.
deal
He
with
comes
it.
out, he's like, that was not right. That was not right, man. You know what Joe should have done? He should have come out and been like, I'm going to give myself 100 push-ups right now. It's just a camera silently, him doing push-ups as punishment. Then he goes over the heavy bag.
Boom, 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 boom.
Anyway, Joe did the right thing. He's like, I messed up, man. Sorry. Good, Joe. But this is what's
Between
funny about Joe.
Joe
If this
Rogan and
was me,
RFK Jr.,
I'd be like, okay,
I
I'm gonna
think they're
take a little
hoarding
break
like
'cause
all
stuff-
of the
maybe stuff is starting
steroids
to
in
smush
tea, like
together.
all the
I
testosterone.
don't know what the hell
Please
I'm
share
saying
for
anymore. You know, I'm
the
totally
trans
alienating
out there.
and putting on
Hi.
blast these people who are allegedly my closest friends.
Not the
I'm gonna take a
steroids. I
little
don't
break,
care
man.
about that.
But the problem is I just found this out that Joe is in what we call a crank scenario. Joe is in a crank scenario where some bad guys, probably Zoran Mamdani, put some kind of a thing in Joe where if he stops podcasting, you know, It's over,
A
man.
crank scenario.
It's a crank scenario.
Being his friend. I love hanging out with him. But I worry.
I've
you
never
know,
seen
and-
that show.
Okay.
Also,
Having been through
probably
this
will
with, like,
not.
Ari, where Ari, like, and I should say
okay,
this, like,
easy,
Theo
Joe.
got off antidepressants. Antidepressants probably saved Ari's life.
Stop
there was
naming names,
Ari
Joe.
Shafir. I'll never forget this. We were playing pool,
Okay.
and he was just seemed really weird. And I said,
Okay,
"What's going
Joe,
on,
not
man?"
again, Joe.
Is he now against antidepressants? Has he been? I don't keep up with Joe Rogan because, like, who gives a fuck? But he said, I did see one thing when Theo Von was recently on his podcast. Like, he's like, yeah, you need to get off these SSRIs and just, like, come hang out in the mothership. That's like, oh, so that cures depression then? Like, also, how can you pretend like what you saying that bro time just needs to fix it? Like, how does that not sound gay to you? Like, straight people do the gayest shit. They're like, yeah, I'm gonna, like, watch you get swole in the gym. I'm gonna check out your ass while I'm spotting you, but then also not be gay. It's like, okay, at least just be honest about it.
Oh, man. Okay, good on Joe. He did the right thing. Came out, he's like, sorry about that. Theo got pissed off at me. But then I watched this. I was like, oh, man, Joe's doing the right thing.
There
I
we
was
go.
wandering around listening to this. Oh, man,
He
Joe's
addressed
doing
it.
the right thing, bro. Joe's doing the right thing, man. And then I keep listening. He's like, Ari Shafir is all f***ed up, man.
We were playing pool and he was all f***ed up.
I was listening to this. I was like, oh, man, come on, Joe. Stop naming names, man. That's what had started this whole thing. But anyway, he's doing his best. Give the goddamn guy a break. He's doing his best to spread his message, which is that
Generally speaking, Chinese people look Chinese.
Chinese. I did not know that. I'll look into that.
Wow. That hard-hitting
this is a
journalism.
We're rolling? All right. Mr.
Okay.
Jason, good to see you, sir.
Great to be back. Thank you.
So we were
Oh,
just
God damn
talking
it.
about this wild.
Okay, comments time. Okay, this is a little game I like to play when he has guys like Mark Andreessen on. It's called Let Me Find One Single Positive Comment. Oh, here's one. Can't wait to hear about how the digital techno-feudalist dystopia is actually a good thing for us. Hey, whoa, sorry, I didn't pre-screen that. That's not positive.
That's not positive. That's I believe negative.
Okay, so this guy
What are you
wants,
making
like,
there?
police cameras everywhere, as you're gonna see in the beginning.
Are you
You'll
making
see why.
some
You'll see why.
bracelets?
Train by day, record
Because I
everyone
like to be
by
doing
night, all
something
day.
with my hands,
Adult baby.
Train by day.
Adult
just
baby.
At night.
streaming, or
Train by
just
day.
like sitting around in
At night.
general.
Cut your meat.
A lot of this kind of comment. Unfortunately,
Lately,
we have lost Joe
I've been
Rogan,
making
my
bracelets
friends.
with
I'm so
the colors
sad
of flags
about that.
from
Oh my
places
God,
that the
5
US
crying
is
faces. Oh, this is
inflicting all of this imperialist, disgusting violence on. But currently, I need to get more string. I need to refuel some of these resources so that I can continue. And I'm wanting to sell them so that I can donate to, like, mutual aid funds in these various places. But also just making some other bracelets to be like, oh, if you want one, you can buy one. And subscribers can suggest colors and that they would like and be able to buy them for a reduced price. So anti-US color strips. What would that be? Like the colors of the flag for, I mean, I know Cuba is like the same color as the American flag, but like doing a design that like looks a little more like the Cuban flag than the American flag, so like not as many like red and white stripes, like the Palestinian flag, the Sudanese flag, which is very similar to the Palestinian flag. I need to get more green. That's a lot of it. Venezuela, Nigeria, Haiti, Lebanon, all of these places. And French and Russia and Dutch, I know. So it's like, okay, you just have to take my word for it. This is the intention that these colors are for these particular places. I try to align them as well, like when I'm covering news about particular places, like be making a bracelet with those flags, and then I still need to like find the best way to post and sell these so that I can be like, oh, it's on this date that we're talking about this, and I'm making this bracelet, so you can connect the dots. Do Austria colors. It's only the same one as Lebanon. All right. All right. Yeah, I need to replenish my stock
If it were one crying face, that would be bad enough, but that's 5. 5
in
total.
Latvia.
Joe Rogan
My
is now the voice of
American
billionaires instead of
ignorance is
normal
showing
people. Hey, you
itself
can't
as
say
well.
that. Boom. Joe will arrest you. Joe will sick
not
his
as
goons on
familiar
you, and they'll give you one of these. Boom, boom.
with
And
flags
then,
around the
sorry
world.
about this, they'll give you one
To
of
my
these.
About
shame.
this wild crime spree that happened this weekend in Austin. So it seems like
Right.
it was it teenagers that were doing this? Yeah. Huh? Yeah?
Jamie? Okay, man, this is where the Joe show starts. This, like, immediately got, like, pretty much the whole Joe comment section pissed off and off board, like, right in the first, like, minute. But I was getting alerts on this, like, over and over on my phone. They were, like, calling me. Some automated thing was calling me. Because I used to live in Austin, and so I kept getting these calls. It's emergency. And there were a bunch of
Is that where
shootings
Joe is at?
over the
Is he in
weekend.
Texas?
And I looked
That
this
makes
up and
a
I
lot
found
of
this
sense.
video. This is from a little town that's right next to Austin. This is an amazing interview. Check this out.
Fight or flight.
The moments a man from Manor came face to face with the suspects wanted in connection to a dozen shootings.
Right.
Well, I came home, was trying to enjoy a nap when I heard sirens and all that. My dog barking, got up.
Oh man, I love this guy. But this is the story. There were these like children, basically,
When you
were
heard
doing these
sirens.
shootings, and then this guy, just some dude in Manor, Texas, stumbled across them, and he was like, "What the hell? What the hell? What the hell y'all doing?" It's a crazy story, but it's basically this guy, Manor man, like catches these kids. What the hell? But anyway, so this is what they're talking about, and then Mark Andreessen starts going off. And the Joe audience does not like this.
So you were saying the reason why they had a hard time catching them is because they had flock cameras
Right.
in Austin, but then they shut those cameras off
Shut
for
up, Mark.
political reasons.
Correct. There's a system called Flock, which is one of our companies. And what they do, it's kind of like in the movies. You take all the municipal cameras and traffic cameras and everything, and you
So
feed
he's
them
just
into an
willingly
AI, and the AI is
admitting
able to
that he's
first find the
associated?
license plate. Cities like Austin, with the intense politics, they run into backlash on privacy and surveillance concerns. And so Austin had Flock and then turned it off.
This is sort of funny. This is like a great way to start the Joe episode.
Oh, the consequences of not giving into the surveillance state. Whatever will we do to solve crimes? I don't know. The way that crimes were solved before.
This is a classic Joe guest. Just universally disliked. Just universally hated. But Joe keeps having the guy back. Mark. But that's such a funny way to start because he's like, first of all, this is my unbiased opinion. This AI surveillance stuff solves crimes, man. It solves crime. That's unbiased. Look, these goddamn things solve crimes, man. Also, I'm a huge investor. I think he's the main investor in this crap.
These things are solve crimes, man.
So he's just like an unbiased source of information here. Oh man, they would have been able to catch these guys right away. But Austin's political, they're crazy. People in Austin are crazy. They have their crazy politics. So they said no to my AI surveillance cameras all over the goddamn place.
One of the
And
few
that's what happens, man,
somewhat
basically.
more
And
progressive
first of all,
places in
like,
Texas.
this guy is a kooky guy, man. Because you could just go look. There are like entire websites devoted to this. Cities all over the place. Not just Austin, like cities all over
They're
the place.
just
are
like the same person. He just is not as roided up.
We don't want this. We don't want the goddamn cameras everywhere, man. AI cameras. Boop, 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 boop. This happened to me once. This is why I was really against it. In Austin, they would boop, 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 boop. That guy pooped his pants. It said. I was like, no, I didn't, guys. Caused me a lot of social problem. Anyway, it's like this is what
Running
this guy does,
joke
like,
of
every time he goes
pooping
on the
your
Joe show,
pants.
he says something crazy that everybody hates.
Consistent
Because
on the
there are these
Arm
websites
Brown
that
channel.
list, they rejected this city didn't want this. All
Emphasis
over,
on the
all over
brown.
place. And if you think about it, in like Texas, you know, some little town in Texas where everybody's like a right-wing libertarian.
Everybody's a God-fearing libertarian.
You think they're gonna be like, yeah, I love being watched by those cameras. Like, it like doesn't make sense. Also, this guy's story doesn't make sense. There's a part where he's like, oh yeah, this company that I pumped a bunch of money into, you know, they banned them in Austin because they're all communist. They didn't catch them till they went to another town that did have my business cameras. And it's like, is that true? Because I just watched a local news report where it was just some guy who was trying to take a nap and then he heard sirens. Right.
Well, I came home, was trying to enjoy a nap when I heard sirens and all that. My dog barking, got up.
I'm glad that he
And
also
his dog
caught
was
that.
barking, who just like stumbled across these shooters.
And I heard some
And they were like,
sirens.
what the hell are you doing in here?
That's a new one.
So, like, the
I'll give him
story
that. There's
I
some
don't see, it doesn't really
originality.
match up, man.
So the concern is mass surveillance, right? And the concern
No,
is
it's
that
not,
someone's
Joe.
going to abuse this
No.
and use AI for nefarious purposes, right? Like
That's
what
crazy.
nefarious purposes?
Shut up, Joe.
Says
would
the
that
guy
be?
who
Yeah, so-
also was like, you know what? So like Jesus was born of a virgin, like the Virgin Mary. What is more like pure and virgin than AI? I'm like, okay, so you're trying to go with the angle that AI is Christ. Wow. This is where we're at, folks.
This is a system that could be used in bad ways, right? So
No, it
bad
can't.
people
Not
could use it in bad
biased
ways. And so if you had a
whatsoever
corrupt,
when all of his
chief
friends
police
are
and, he had some personal
associated with
entitlement
AI.
thing, and he wanted to track a, X whatever, or if the mayor wanted to, do this to terrorize her political opponents or whatever. Like if you had, corrupt.
Pull that sucker so it's not on your chin. Push it forward a little bit. Yeah. Is there?
Joe does that. He's always giving Mike direction. I gotta stop here. I gotta make note of this. My favorite mic work guy is Joey Coco Diaz. Joey Coco Diaz, literally famous, probably
Who
a
is
millionaire
that?
from just talking into a mic. And this is Joey Coco Diaz on a Joe show. Yeah, Joe, what the hell?
Yeah, I don't know, Joe. What the hell's going on there?
But anyway, this is the baffling thing about Joe having this guy on over and over and over and over.
Also,
over and
telling
over and over
people
and
what to do
again
with their
is
mic,
because
unless it's
he's just, like,
egregious,
not a
that is just trying to like show
reliable
dominance.
for
Like,
anything. He's like, oh,
I
this
think you
good
need to do
company that I
that.
invested a ton of
It's like,
money in.
shut up.
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
And then Joe's like, some people have these concerns, right? Watching everything, watching everything they do. And this guy's like, well, could be, maybe somebody did. Probably worth it, but probably somebody could use it for bad. I mean, he's like a tech guy. He's got to be reading some of these big tech websites like
Use it for
Tech Dirt,
bad.
Electronic Frontier Foundation, all this crap, because they've written a lot about this. What the hell is this goddamn thing in the EFF? Our investigation exposes flock safety surveillance abuses. 2025 in review. So this is, this is not something that came out to right now. Flock enables surveillance of protesters, bias policing, weaponizing surveillance against reproductive rights. There's a bunch of cases of that.
It's like the Patriot Act.
Aren't we
I'm
all?
a patriot. Take my rights.
Yeah.
Of course I'm a patriot. Take away my rights.
It's like every time.
I don't want to.
Obama.
This is why the Joe Show is the best podcast. He's the best at podcasting. He can't. He's involved in a crank situation where if he stops podcasting, he'll pass away. But this is why I love it, because I just did
I
a
have no
search,
idea what
and there's like 2 million,
that even
2
means.
bazillion trillion, 100,000 like clips of Joe like, oh, the Patriot Act, man, takes away all your rights, man. They're monitoring
Hello,
everybody. He's
Turd
literally
Bomb.
had Snowden
Welcome.
on his show. Oh man, they're looking at everybody. That's sick. Here's like the exact same argument. Oh man, you gotta keep her safe, so I gotta watch you all the time. And Joe's like, And then this guy's like, part of why they don't want this kind of stuff is covered up as wokeness. And Joe's like, well, that sucks. It's like, what the hell? Exact same argument that you've been against. There's 400 bazillion clips of you, and now it's a different. But I think this has to do with the crank situation. After a while, just I gotta keep saying stuff.
So, one wonders if there's a political motivation, right? Which
Wait,
is
did he
basically
just
to
mention
get the
Andrew
responsible
Schultz?
people out of the city to be able to change the voting patterns, right?
I tend to just like
and
zone
so-
out
God,
with
that's
this
so
shit.
insidious.
Yeah, and so
Right,
you
Joe.
wonder.
So yeah, man, this
I
whole
mostly
part is
just
pretty
like
crazy. Joe's
RN's
comment
jokes.
section is universally against this. Just go take a scroll through. They're like, this is terrible. Shut up. no. And
There-
to
there's like
summarize
some
this
recent
part, it seems
drama
like
with like Andrew
this
Schultz
whole,
and like
what,
someone on the
first
show.
20 minutes, 30 minutes of this is like,
don't care
there's
enough to,
crime
like, give it the
everywhere.
views.
Crime is absolutely out of control. Somebody, people we don't like, probably, I don't know, Mom Dottie or something, they want that. So that they get more votes or something. I don't know. Who knows?
They don't want us to be
any
watching
proof
when
or
you
evidence for that?
wipe
it's
your
right here.
ass.
And how do we
Like,
solve
that's
this
so rude.
crime
That's
that
like
we're
actually a
saying is, like,
violation of
completely
my,
uncontrolled? You can't
like,
walk around anymore.
personal
You can't even walk around anymore.
safety.
Somebody will do this.
It's like
to you.
my
Okay.
own
Oh, and what's
privacy
the solution
that I
to
can't
this?
watch
Oh,
you
we
do
put
that.
cameras up. AI cameras from a company that I own that watches everybody. So, like, even if this were true, that it's like crime is out of control. Crime is at its worst point in human history. You can't even walk down a street in Austin or anywhere without somebody walking up to you going like this. Even if this were true, crime is out of control. Instead of going like to the root to actually solve this problem, we'll just watch everybody. My company, by the way. My AI camera company. Okay.
That
Yeah, I wonder
internet
why people don't
drama
like it.
shit comes
People
up on my
love
feed
being
sometimes, and I
monitored all
just
the
don't want to
time,
take the
nonstop,
time to
by
learn it all.
by
Yeah,
a
same.
tech billionaire.
Like, which is how
That's
New
kind of
York's
how I feel about like with this bullshit of like I don't even really listen to the substance of what they're talking about because let's be honest, the lack of substance is more accurate. I just like RM's take on everything. Also, I will admit I am a sucker for like potty humor, so this is a great place to get some.
city got bailed out,
Right.
which is a hilarious story. They balanced the budget.
Right.
Oh, congratulations. Mom Donnie's a genius. He figured it
Calm
out.
down,
Socialism
Joe.
works. He balanced the budget. And then you realize they got $4 billion from the state
Yep.
so they
Right.
could balance that budget. So all these folks that are living in small towns,
Potty humor's always funny. He's a lot more smart than he plays up. Joe or Andrew Schultz?
with no crime and living in rural, like
RM,
West New
yes,
York. and, like,
exactly.
they had to pay.
100%. And then, by the way, the states get bailed out. Right, by the
100%.
feds.
Federally.
Yeah,
It's so
exactly.
fun.
We don't care
This is
about
an interesting part because these two guys, you know.
Yeah,
These two
RM
guys, my boys right
has
here.
a great sense
And,
of
they're
humor,
two
but
of the,
also he can back it
most
up with like
prominent,
some good
like, Trump
commentary
guys.
in there.
He
And
does
like
not
he's
come up.
definitely
The
taking one
president
for the
doesn't-
team,
I don't think they talk
watching
about him like
the
at all in
slop,
this.
because
How
I'm not
long is
willing
this
to
goddamn
do that.
Piece of crap. I watched 3 hours and 20 minutes of this. Oh my god! May
Oh.
God smite me with great wrath and furious anger on that one. So two of the most prominent public supporters of the president doesn't come up too much.
His live
man.
streams
All
are
this stuff been
interesting,
going-
but it's been
all
forever.
this
I didn't
stuff's
know
been
that he
going
did
on
live
there.
streams.
That seems like a bit of a crime wave. Maybe they should put some flock cameras over there, man.
Oh, that would be
But
fun
no,
to watch him.
Those cameras will be watching my little butt.
My little butt.
Like with the pants pooping incident, which was totally misconstrued. I think the camera AI'd that. I didn't do it. But yeah, that doesn't come up too much, man. But who does come up? Mom Donnie. Mom Donnie.
Mom Donnie.
But
Also,
yeah.
I've said this before, but like YouTube auto captions are racist. They're like they barely get English correct, but then you throw in anything that falls outside of the English spectrum, or like more like classist, like white supremacist, colonized English, because like we gotta be honest, it is horrible at picking up on AAVE as well, and slang just in general, let alone names of different origins that are not Eurocentric or, heaven forbid, other languages. He's much more himself and less on. That makes sense, because, yeah, especially with, like, the editing, it's some of the stuff that has the most, like, pop to it. Recommends lots of books. Ooh, that's cool.
If you look this up
I'm
and
gonna have to
read
check him
about
out.
this
Is he on
Mamdani thing
Twitch?
that they're talking about, the budget thing, from basically anywhere except for like the New York Post and Fox News, what they're saying is just crap propaganda, which is shocking because it's like, I
Okay,
can't believe
he
what
streams
the
on
hell?
YouTube.
These guys are saying that guy
Good
sucks.
to know.
A
Thank you
hundreds
for
millionaire
letting me know about that.
and a billionaire don't like a guy who's saying, hey, if you have a multi-million-dollar penthouse that you don't live in, or going to do an additional small tax on that. Oh, that guy sucks. Right? No,
Oh, I
it's
don't think he's
'cause
on Twitch.
he
Okay.
does bad stuff that everyone hates. That's basically this segment. So, summary so far. We don't want to solve crime.
mean,
We
you
just
would
want to
do
watch
well.
you, everybody who's not me and Joe, want to watch your little butt. So that's good. Despite everything Joe said in the past,
Live
that's
streams
good.
on
We should
YouTube,
do
hard to
that.
catch, though.
And the tax, the millionaire,
Okay,
billionaire
that's good to
guy's
know.
bad. Okay, pretty good so far, man.
So I just came from New York, and so New York has their own version of this now with their new mayor. And
Yeah,
I'll
the
see if I can
controversy
catch
there last
one
week was their
sometime.
mayor did a video standing in front of somebody's home,
Yes.
calling him out by name.
Ken Griffin.
Ken Griffin.
Who's a very wealthy guy who brings a lot of jobs.
We only care when there are wealthy people who feel like they are being harassed, even though he's secretly proud that everyone knows that this is his expensive ass apartment.
Like, cry me a fucking river. Although if you did, they would sell the river, they would pollute the river and then sell it to the highest bidder.
In New York City and was in the middle of a huge project. That's a $6 billion
Joe
project.
reading? It sounds like Joe's reading off something. There's an awesome dude. Oh, man. Zoran did a video outside of that guy's house with a camera? A camera was pointed at that guy? His privacy may have been compromised?
No,
What
the
the
wrong
fuck?
kind
What
of
the
camera.
fuck?
That's
Because he
sick.
didn't use
The only way, this is
a
a narrative that
flat
gets pushed
camera.
along
That's why they're
Democratic
mad.
Socialists, that no one achieves that. I think I literally heard AOC say this recently.
Right.
That no one achieves substantial wealth without somehow or another victimizing other people.
It's a
exploiting.
pretty good podcast, man.
It's a pretty
Well,
good podcast that I like to listen to.
Where's the lie in
when I'm
that?
walking around doing one of these? I'm walking around like my name,
Hassan Parker.
listening to this. And these guys talk about like political stuff, like half the podcast. Oh man, Mom Donnie sucks. AOC's a moron. Political.
Yeah, of course they
political
have to
crap.
minimize
Oh, Austin, it's a bunch
Mom
of crazy
Donnie actually
political
like
people
balancing the
there.
budget,
they're
helping to
political
reduce that
crap in
huge
California, blah, blah,
deficit
blah, blah,
that
blah.
Eric
No
Adams
mention
left
of the
him with.
president. That they both supported all the crap that's
Just
going on.
consistently
That's still,
defunding
AOC said something.
programs,
Oh my God. No
social
mention,
service
man.
programs over the
Also,
years.
Billionaires are cool. Billionaires are cool. I happen to be talking to one. They're cool. If you're just wandering around Austin, Texas, you work at one of the beautiful vape shops across the city, we should keep a little eye on you, man. Billionaire, don't even point a camera in the direction of the public building. Don't even point a camera standing on the sidewalk toward the direction of that place, of the home of a billionaire.
Who, by the way, are awesome and the best.
Yeah, this is a good podcast, man.
Technology-based telepathy is the ultimate game
Billionaires
changer.
not only are just
Absolutely,
like
Joe. I tell
There'll be
everyone that.
no more frauds.
so disgusting
There's going to
with
be. I
their
mean, you're not going to be able to exist
amorality,
as a fraud. Everybody
lack
can
of
read
human
your mind.
empathy,
You're
but they
not gonna be
also
able to
are just
exist
like
as a
so
grifter.
fucking
Everyone's going to know your
tacky and
motivations. Everyone's going to know
tasteless.
everything. It's
They
going
have
to
to
be very
exploit us for a
strange,
reason because they don't have
but
any talent.
No, it's not.
That literally could call
Like,
in the next cycle of
I have to
humanity.
buy this
Oh my
media
God, really
outlet
think
so that
about it.
like I can
won't
have
think about it.
friends,
If you
so
wanted to
people
be
will like
completely
me.
optimistic.
Of course.
Okay.
What do you think,
That's
though?
Yeah,
really
look, I mean, so
pathetic.
obviously that's there'd be a very, very, very big change. The technology
Nah.
path for that is this, so-called neural mesh. Neuralink is a step in that direction, right?
Yeah.
So Elon is serious about. I mean, not specifically about what you said, but he's serious about integrating so-called brain interfaces.
Okay.
And they're working, right?
Oh, this
See,
is a funny little
the way
piece right here.
These
This is
people
a funny
also
little
talk about
right
the
here.
rich. Like,
Because,
how does
Joe,
that
you
not
know,
sound
for
so
for,
gay?
What, over a decade?
Like, as someone who's
Joe has
queer.
been kind of like an Alex
Like-
Jones guy. He's had
Like,
him on a
Elon's
bunch.
like the smartest
probably
guy
a
I've
lot
ever
of
known.
Joe's
Like,
audience
Elon's into it,
has
so like we all
been
should be into
Alex
it. Okay,
Jones,
why don't you like fucking suck him
adjacent
off
fans.
then?
But this,
Will that
this has been
finally
a
get
lot
you
of
to stop
Joe's,
talking about him?
Public persona. Oh,
Speaking
Jones
of
type crap.
sucking people off,
Oh,
Alex
you want
Jones,
monitor
the
your
constant
little
like
butt.
feet, the constant soundbite he has with Alex Jones is, "I haven't sucked any ding dongs." It's like, okay, if you have to say that, you have for sure sucked many a ding dong in your time.
And now here's Joe. It's almost like he's trying to piss his audience off or something. If he were aware of doing that, because the whole Joe Rogan, Alex Jonesy thing.
They're trying to watch everything you do, man.
And now here he is putting like a little positive spin, a little weird little positive spin on like brain chip monitoring. Oh man, here's a good Just like with the camera thing. Here's a good take. If everybody got a brain chip, if they could keep an eye on everybody's brain inside there with the chips, from you, crazy guy, and Elon, normal guy, then all these frauds, man, you can't even do it anymore, all these frauds. I mean, Joe even says, like, if you want to look at it positively, there's a good way. It's like, okay. All right, Joe, I think your audience is going to like that one. You know, after being kind of a Alexy guy for, 20 years. I think they're going to love that one, man. Oh, the brain chip is good in ways. What do you think?
I want to put a brain chip in Theo Von.
Keep an eye on him, what his little butt's up to.
Most incredible ping pong matches you've ever seen.
Oh, wow.
So it's like the American
the
dream.
brain
It's
chip
the,
instead of antidepressants. That's the real
he gets to make
fix.
it with Gwyneth Paltrow along the way. So it's like it's her return to movies after a long break.
When is this movie out?
This is out last year. This is you got cheated at the Oscars.
You got cheated?
Okay.
What movie?
This is when I watch one. This happens every time I watch one of these 14-hour-long Joe joints.
Every time I watch a Joe joint,
There comes a moment where I'm like, oh. This is the one where I pause it. I'm like,
Joe joint,
Joe.
the most
Joe, you're doing
cursed
your best,
rotation.
Joe. Where this guy's talking about Marty Supreme. We'll come back to this. His
Marty
take on
Supreme.
But Joe's like, when did that come out?
I have been dragging Marty Supreme ever since I heard about it. I'm like, who the fuck cares about a ping pong movie? Also, this guy that's like, I don't care about Timmy. I don't care about Timotei. His acting is subpar. Sue me. I don't give a fuck. But it is. He's just as like skinny and white. But that is like the key to getting an Oscar. Although, because he campaigned too hard and he went up against this larger classism of opera and ballet, which like I like opera and ballet, but like it would be nice if these people would be as upset about like the hoarding of wealth and genocide as they were about his comments about opera and ballet. But like it is fun to see that like he didn't get the thing he was campaigning so heavily for, which is that Oscar for Marty Supreme. Also, he and Kylie Jenner, what is happening? Just like old fascist money. We have to be talking about it.
Ow, what is that? This movie that was like probably the biggest, just all over the place. Joe's like, what was that? When did that come out? What is that about? I just watched things about bow and arrows, mostly. What is that? What is that movie? It's about basketball or something?
I mean, did you see Marty Supreme? Did you see the movie Marty Supreme?
No, I did not.
So Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank plays the bad guy in Marty Supreme.
No,
does he?
And kills it. It's a legitimately great performance. It's absolutely, he plays a mid-century
loves
businessman. He absolutely nails it.
Watching his joy there is one of the most off-putting things I've ever seen. Oh. Kevin O'Leary. Speaking of Kevin O'Leary, the shark shit that is building this 40,000 acre AI data center in Utah, which we'll do some follow-up on, so stay tuned. Hello, Igloo. Zach Rated in here, watching RM Brown and Texture in here. Okay, well, thanks for sticking around, Texture, so we get that extra follow. Welcome. Good to have you.
Safdie brothers.
I'll spoil it. At one point, he literally spanks Marty. Like he literally,
No, he does not.
because Marty's like
Gives him one of
needs
these.
it for funding for his all of his crazy dreams.
He spanks
And
him,
Kevin O'Leary turns out-
actually.
his character turns out to be a
And
thing.
again,
know
them
what the
trying
movie's
to
about.
claim
You know
that
what?
they aren't
This is
queer.
funny, like even this
Like,
guy's
just be
take
honest about
on
it.
This movie, which Joe is like,
It's
what the hell
okay
is
to
that?
like being
Does it have
spanked.
MMA in it? No,
Spanked
it
by other
doesn't, Joe.
men.
Yeah, it does. Okay, fine, it does. Even this guy's take
Just
on
be
Marty Supreme is
honest.
kind of like, yeah, all right. It's kind of weird. It's about the American dream. It's funny that he like loved this movie. This is a Safdie brothers movie, and they're pretty, they're like subversive trolls, the Safdie brothers. It's funny to walk away from that movie as like, that's what the American dream's all about, man.
Yeah, they
It's
are,
kind of
except I
dope.
think they've gotten to the Safdie brothers, especially after Uncut Gems. I think that was one of their last, like, really good films, in my opinion. It's like, you can also tell, like, how good or bad a movie is by, like, the people who like it. And I know this sounds very pretentious, and it probably is, but I also don't care. Of, like, this guy, like, just waxing poetic about how great Marty Supreme is, this is just making me feel even more justified in my hatred of it, and I haven't even seen it.
Weird. There's one, like, quote-unquote likable character in that movie, and it's a guy who's, like, you know, a self-sacrificing, humble guy. Everybody else is, like, a detestable creep in that movie, but this guy's like, that's what it's all about, American Dream, man. Everybody has Joe's voice, by the way. Hey, it's me. It's me, I'm on the Joe Show. I'm a billionaire. Anyway, I like Marty Supreme, too. Okay, great. It's been a couple hours. So let's check the comments. Maybe there is a positive one now. What the hell does this one say right here? This is kind of the perfect one right here. And you say what Theo was saying on your show, quote, freaks you out. Joe, what about what this guy says?
Theo mentioning
adult baby
that genocide is bad.
Sounds great, Joe.
That, like,
Great job,
Palestinians
Joe.
shouldn't
the
be
audience is loving this.
genocided.
Why the hell do you keep doing this? Oh, Joe, my sweet Joe. This is called the prayer to Joe. I do this every day. Oh, Joe, sweet Joe, what is going on with you? Yeah,
Do
I don't know why
3
he
sweet
keeps doing this.
Joes,
I mean, it's
and you won't be
universal.
haunted anymore.
It seems every time.
That's
I mean,
another
just
one of his
as an
sound
interview,
bites.
you
The
don't really
Candace
get
Owens.
anything
I'm
out of
gonna
this,
haunt you.
because it's all completely biased information. You know, we're just doing PR for this guy, but he keeps doing it. This is why I think people think Joe is suspicious. It's like, nobody will. What are you doing
Who
this for,
even
Joe?
still watches
But I
Joe
learned a
Rogan
lot,
at this
man.
point?
You know, billionaire investors are the
I think
best
my brother
people.
does.
That's unbiased. Coming from one
Which
of
we
them.
don't really talk.
They're so good that you
So,
shouldn't even
there
be
you go.
really allowed
People like
to
that,
look
I
at
guess.
a building from the sidewalk where one of them lives, but we can look at you, everything you do, and shut the hell up. And that's about it. This is Joe. He finally checks the comments. Let me take a look at how this is being received.
What? They don't like this? What? What the hell is this world?
I'm so confused by this that I gotta get some heavy bag rounds in.
Boom, 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 boom.
Oh, bip, 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 quack, 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 quack.
Oh, he's getting a
I'm
message.
getting an incoming transmission. Let's go to that, JB.
America's the good guy. You know, Iran is the bad guy.
Not this
I mean,
fucker.
of course, nobody.
Okay, by the way, let me just say, R.M. Brown, if you're watching this, and if he's not, somebody please send this to R.M. Brown. We need a new drop on his show, and the drop needs to be John Fetterman in an exasperated way saying, America's the good guy.
Boom.
We need a new drop on R.M. Brown.
That little boom. Kyle Klinsky. I don't really watch as much of his stuff. He's pretty funny. But I don't know if you all saw the other day. I am not like a Fox News watcher. I just saw like on the Majority Report they were watching Maria Bartiromo, the most like grating voice you've ever heard. She was just screaming at Ro Khanna the whole time. That was like, what? This is all it is. This is all it is. You don't have like anything of value to offer. I mean, it's Fox News, so yeah. Also, not to be annoying, but like I was telling everyone that John Fetterman is not to be trusted before, and people were like,
Oh, look, he's like a normal person. He's wearing a sweatshirt.
okay, anyone can wear a fucking sweatshirt. Also, the fact that he was like,
You aren't gonna win elections by telling people that there are fascists that exist.
that's like, okay, yeah, I knew that you were a snake. And guess what? The brain damage of his strokes have just revealed really how snake-like he actually is. Interesting how that happens when people somehow become more right-wing and fascist after having more brain damage. Not to be ableist, because there are plenty of people that are not fascist, but he just is not able to hide his fascism.
Joe, somebody send this to R.M. Brown.
America's the good guy. You know,
Come on, man. That's a perfect drop. America's the good guy.
America's the good guy.
Oh, okay, guys, that is a heartwarming message. You know, we've been watching a lot of stupid crap, man. But that is very heartwarming to know that.
America's the good guy.
Oh, yes, thank
Yes.
you, Mr. Federston. America's the good guy.
Peterson.
America, the place where you can
Cut your meat.
Well, guys, before we get out of here, I gotta do this. I gotta do an apology to my co-host, Little Greg. He's our youth correspondent, Little Greg. I did something wrong. I wanted to apologize to him.
Poor little Greg.
Are you there first?
Yeah, what's going on, man? Thank you. Thanks for having me. Little Greg here.
Okay, great, little Greg.
Just
Shut up
talks
for a
the
second,
exact
please.
same
I'm
way,
doing an apology,
but
please
his
shut
voice
up.
just altered
I just want to
slightly.
apologize. I've been saying publicly on streams and in video that you wet the bed, you know, when you're sleeping or whatever. I've been saying that publicly, that you go TT when you're sleep.
Oh, thank you so much for apologizing. It really hurt my feelings when you were telling everybody that.
Okay, right, shut up again. Shut up, little Greg. But in my defense, I didn't tell them that you do the other one too. The brown one. I didn't tell them that you're holding it down with the brown when you're asleep, okay?
Holding it down with the
you
brown.
just said it.
Oh, man, okay. Sorry about
The
that. I'll do
RN
another
brown.
apology, maybe. I'll probably forget. Anyway, guys, hope you're doing good. It's Wednesday, the day that we look
Sure
up
is.
at the flag. We look up at that stupid little flag with our wet little stupid little squinted eyes, and we say,
America's the good guy.
Glory, guys. Talk to you next time. Bye-bye.
Hey guys, it's me, youth correspondent Little Greg. Please disregard the last part of that video, everything you just saw. Man, I can't wait till those creeps, those repellent creeps come up with those brain chips so I can just delete what you just saw. But anyway, guys, I'm a child and I can't work due to pesky regulations.
Well,
So please help
good news,
out
Little
by
Greg.
what
That
am
is
I trying to say?
changing.
Subscribing on Patreon. By the way, quick note on that. You get all the episodes you're missing every single week. Oh my god, you're missing.
It's just so unserious, but also such a great approach to all of this slop that he reviews. It's incredible. Okay. Oh, wait. Where was this? Here we go. Actually, okay. Sorry to be jumping around. I want to do this first. We're gonna watch this. This is happening in Salt Lake City, or it was happening yesterday, that there was this fire. Guess what? More fires are happening because the people are pissed. I don't know if this was like direct action or a disgruntled worker, but you know, it very well could be, because they're not talking about that at all, of how it got started. So, that often seems to be an indicator.
It's been one heck of an afternoon around here into the early...
You're not familiar with Utah? That was a great introduction. It's been one heck of an afternoon around here. It's like people who don't swear, but them thinking they don't swear means they also correlate that with being a good person, which, you know, is not always the case.
evening hours. That 3-alarm blaze meant roughly 60 firefighting personnel rushing to this scene from throughout Salt Lake City. There were even units from Unified Fire helping out in all of this. And just a few moments ago, the front-end loaders that were helping churn through that smoldering pile of rubble behind us, they just left the scene, and there's one tanker behind us you can probably see still spraying water onto that, trying to get it out completely so investigators can begin their work in earnest tomorrow morning. But the big issue for a lot of folks, especially east of here, was all that smoke.
Yeah. As if we aren't already
toxic
breathing in
plume
enough
could be
shit
seen for
here.
miles in just about every direction.
With the Great Salt Lake
Mateo
drying up
Ochoa
and
was leaving east
arsenic
high,
dust
several miles
storms
away from the
happening.
fire when he first saw the smoke. He lives just to the east of the recycling center, and his friends were concerned.
They're like, yo, I saw this big like cloud of smoke, like, where is that? I was like, I told them it's by our house, and like they got concerned, and I was like, that's crazy.
And that smoke was the result of the items that were burning in and around the buildings.
The majority of it, it's a combination of wood and electronics. This is part of a recycling operation.
Yikes.
And so that's where the kind of the nasty smell is coming from, is the plastics and other things that are in that.
At one point, Salt Lake City
Nasty smoke?
firefighters
It's not
sent
from
an alert
capitalism?
out on X
Oh,
warning
it's
people about the
toxins
smoke.
that
If
are
you've got
also from
smoke
capitalism.
if you're in the smoke, either at your home or near the
Secondhand
scene,
capitalism.
you need to be out of it.
But that was a lot easier said than done for folks living in the neighborhoods downwind of the blaze, including in this trailer park. Sophie lives with a woman who has a toddler.
Yeah, he is 2 years old. So, yeah.
Yeah, I saw some of these smoke clouds yesterday.
Mm-hmm.
This is me doing a hard
Now
pivot
you're
to
leaving for a
covering,
little while?
finishing covering some local news.
I need fresh air.
Similar situation for Mateo and his family.
Yeah, I've been smelling it in my house, and it smells like burnt rubber, like just nasty. My dad had a little bit of asthma, and his like lungs are not really that good.
Well,
and Bob, as of last report, officials say they still have no idea yet what sparked this massive blaze. They'll probably get a better handle on that tomorrow when the sun comes up and when they're done pouring water on the smoldering wreckage that remains here. The only good news in all of this is that there are no reports of any injuries, either from the folks who were in or around the building or any firefighting personnel as well. And it appears as though that smoke finally dissipating earlier this evening, but for a while there, it was really clogging into some of those neighborhoods. It was nasty. For now, we're live in Salt Lake City. Scott McCain, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right. I did see that recommended to me earlier today, this. Excuse me. I need to refresh this. I don't know why this has been doing that so much lately. The content is available after I refresh the page. Stop lying to me. Utah legislature to explore impacts of data centers, because there has been a lot of pushback that with this very large AI data center being built by Kevin O'Leary and how he was approached by a lot of Utah legislators, the governor, the Speaker of the House, the President of the Senate, who also conveniently get a lot of money from these technoligarchs in order to be elected, and lobbyists that are directly benefiting from these data centers. Now they're feeling pressured to actually explore the impacts of data centers, which, bitch, this is what the whole process is supposed to do with environmental impact reports, which is what they have been circumventing in the process, because all of these places are categorized under national security, under this military board that also the same people who are profiting from this, the legislators, are the ones who are on this board. Surprise, surprise, corruption. So we're seeing that they are actually starting to do this because there is so much public pushback. But this is what they should be doing anyway. Like, the fact that they're able to just speed through this process without any environmental impact reports or normal zoning laws that they have to go through, it just goes to show how, like, bureaucracy, as many of us have already known, is a form of oppression, and that it somehow seems to speed up with an alarming rapidity when capitalists are expecting it to be moving in a quick fashion.
I'm going to gather some information.
In a surprise move, the Utah State Legislature's Natural Resources Interim Committee unanimously voted to authorize a study on the environmental impact of data centers.
I think data centers, given their scope, the need for them, the desire to build them rapidly, like, we got to take account of what's coming down the pike for Utah.
Celebrity investor Kevin O'Leary's massive...
Yeah, Kevin O'Leary, the guy that R.M. Brown was talking about, that one, like, Joe Rogan 2.0, that he was like, did you see Marty Supreme? Kevin O'Leary was a bad guy in it. Yeah, I wonder why.
Data center project in Box Elder County is forcing this conversation.
This happened last week.
The project has become a flashpoint of controversy and anger over data centers.
Where we're trying to put water in the Great Salt Lake, and we got other competing water usage for population growth.
These people were not talking in this way before all of these protests and petitions.
We got needs for that water, and we just need to make sure if we do have data centers, are they using the best available technology, or maybe it's a better idea to put them where they got more water.
It would be helpful to round that out and continue that discussion.
Representative Owens found a lot of support from colleagues on both sides of the aisle.
I welcome any of the facts around what data centers do and don't do.
Why didn't you demand that
beforehand? A lot of speculation
beforehand?
and a lot of things that have been out there that may sway people's
Also,
opinion,
with all of these
but I'm
corrupt
not sure that they're rooted
legislators,
in
you'd think
exactly
that
the
they would be able
facts.
to
That would be
buy
around,
better ties.
water.
I think it needs to be studied. We not only have these here in northern Utah,
But there really
we've
is
got
no accounting for
two
taste.
proposed near Mona. We've got proposals at IPP site. We've got proposals near Cedar City. So
I've been getting a lot of calls from my constituents and they're angry, and I don't like it when people are mad at me. Normally I'm just used to when people throw money at me, I respond to things, so this is disconcerting to say the least.
it affects the whole state, and we need to take a good hard look at it.
To that motion, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Environmental groups say it's a good step.
The more information, the better. I would love to see a motion that puts a pause on existing data center development until the study is complete.
But Representative Owens says he's also planning a bill in the upcoming legislative session to demand environmental reviews before any data center project moves forward.
People have a lot of concerns.
Hello?
This will just help us get good information, make good decisions about them.
So what can you expect next? Well, over the summer and into the fall, experts will be brought in to testify before lawmakers on the impacts of data centers. What they learn from that can be rolled into legislation similar to what Representative Owens is proposing. On the Hill, Ben Winslow, Fox 13 News, Utah.
All right, Ben Winslow. Yeah, I doubt that Representative Owens would have even considered this as a proposal if there hadn't been so much public backlash. So, speaking of, let's go to this, because there is a whole proliferation of data centers that are being built in Utah, and of course this is not a phenomenon that is exclusive to Utah. We are seeing all around the nation, the world at large, all of these data centers being built, AI data centers, but also nuclear power plants that are generating these places that they try to say like, oh, we're generating our own energy. No, it's still taking it from the grid. You just are needing extra energy because you can't take it all from the grid because the grid does not sustain it. And according to very good reporting by the Salt Lake Tribune, this one AI data center being proposed by Kevin O'Leary, people often think that it's taking 9 gigawatts of power per year, but it will take closer to 16 to 17 gigawatts of power. The whole state of Utah on average uses a little more than 4 gigawatts of power every year. And that is just one data center. Not to mention all of these other ones that are coming up in Pocatello, in Iron County, in Delta. So we're needing to keep a watch on all of them. And unfortunately, we are seeing that, like, even though there is some movement with legislators, they certainly are not moving fast enough, that we have to hold them accountable. This is what we always have to do in order to have a healthy democracy of any sorts. Or do we actually have a democracy? That's another question. But we have to be the ones to come up with the information, all of these environmental impact reports, and we have been, especially with this organizing group that I'm a part of. We're called Utah Roots, Utah Residents Organizing for Oversight, Transparency, and Stewardship. And people inside and outside of Utah are signing up. So if you're interested, you can fill out the form link, the volunteer form link in the profile, because this is an issue that impacts all of us. It's not just in Utah. And if you happen to be aware of any data centers that are being built near you, please let me know, and we can add it to all of the ones that we're tracking so far.
At the public hearing regarding the proposed
This
AI
was
data
on May
center in
14th.
Pocatello.
But many of these places were not even being
Tensions ran
noticed
high at the
until this larger data center was bringing attention to all of these other ones that are springing up all around the state. And we're seeing in many places, like in Georgia, in West Virginia, that many people don't even know that these data centers are being built until they just don't have water, or their water is extremely dirty. They don't have clean water, or they have like very limited water pressure, where it's like, there's a reason why they're trying to go through all of these loopholes and secrecy in order to accomplish and build all of these anti-human projects, because they are not concerned about human life and they realize that people will be upset.
Public hearing regarding the proposed AI data center in Pocatello.
Yeah, this is the most uniting issue I've ever seen in Utah. And this is invigorating people all along the political spectrum, something that I honestly was not expecting, especially when it comes to very conservative MAGA people, these Christian nationalists that are very present in the state of Utah. We essentially have no separation of church and state, so many of these like Christian nationalist policies that are being given a trial run are often started in Utah, in addition to places like Tennessee and Texas. So this is a place that this stuff often flies under the radar, and I'm glad that it's finally getting more media attention for all of the bullshit that happens here.
The matter in question was whether to allow a conditional use permit for the construction of an AI data center at 1800 River Park Way, the former site of the Hoku Materials plant, now in disrepair. Gus Schultz of Lex Developments LLC, located in Arizona, bought the property from Portneuf Capital LLC and intends to develop it for the data center, something that is not specified in Pocatello City Code. A public hearing on this particular issue is not required by City Code.
Pocatello
but the mayor
is
and
tiny.
city staff wanted
It
to
is a
gather
tiny
community
town.
input
The
before
fact that
making
they're
a decision.
even able to like
Kathleen
fill this
Lewis
entire
served as the
room
hearing
is
examiner, hearing from the applicant,
saying a lot.
Schultz,
This
and
is like the
taking
whole
community
town.
testimony. What seemed to be apparent is that much of the plans regarding the facility are still up in the air. Currently, the data center design consists of 7 buildings on site, but Schultz says that a final design cannot be made until after a study is performed by Idaho Power to determine the usage of the center.
So we'll start moving on it, but their study takes a while.
Okay, so until you have the power study, you can't do the design. Am I understanding that correctly?
Oh, this is Pocatello, Idaho?
Yes, we have.
Okay, there's a Pocatello, Utah, and a Pocatello, Idaho. Pocatello, Idaho is close to the border of Utah, though. Oh yeah, I guess I should have realized that the I is for Idaho. The data center is literally going to use up all your clean water and destroy your environment. Yep. Nobody but the enemy wants data centers to exist. They are a weapon of war against humankind. Exactly. For mass surveillance, for the military industrial complex. It's very alarming. Yeah, I guess they don't have anything else to describe it.
Have to wait for that.
Okay.
Many citizens were concerned about the use of water for cooling the plant. Schultz claims that once the closed-loop cooling system is complete, it would only require about the equivalent of 250 to 300 gallons a year, though the public remains skeptical.
We're not going to use much more than 4 or 5 houses worth of water in the consumption.
Excuse me, if the public could please...
They're all laughing at him. Yeah, you think this shithead can be trusted? I don't think so. Look at his watch. His watch probably costs more than like all of these people's like salary combined.
Really?
Many citizens already opposed to the idea of an AI data center were left concerned by the lack of details provided by Schultz in the early phases of planning the project.
The gentleman that came here today was unable to provide any concrete answers to the conditions of use.
This seems to be a pattern in all of these other
roughly 5 households worth
meetings for public
I think
comment.
we've all seen the news. I think we all know that that is an incredible underestimate.
Yes.
You asked him how much power he would use, and he said, I don't know. How much will you give me? He couldn't tell you the size.
This is a pattern. They're like, I don't know the answer to that, but like, I'll come back with answers. It's like, bitch, this is affecting everyone's life. Not just, I mean, we should care about the environment and all of these ecosystems that are going to be in just complete collapse, that already are experiencing this because Utah has been in a drought. Idaho has also been in a drought. That so many people's livelihoods are being impacted by this. Human life, animal life, wildlife, just in general, it's affecting everything. And sadly, we see how, you know, a lot of these people with fascist inclinations who are MAGA do not care about any sort of given situation until they are personally affected. But sadly, this is a pattern of behavior that happens with most politics, especially people with privilege, that they don't care because, like, that is the essence of privilege, that these issues do not affect them personally, that they don't care about things until they start to feel it personally. It doesn't even matter about like their family members experiencing things.
The number of the buildings, the amount of water, or the amount of electricity he actually wanted. And to me, that does not establish any understanding of use. And I want to make it very clear, someone who is claiming they will invest over $2.5 billion in a project absolutely understands every detail.
As these types of facilities are still new, the true effects of AI data centers remain relatively unknown. And with uncertainty surrounding the environmental impact of the plant, uncertainty around water use in a region where water is crucial, and questions about the true number of permanent jobs the plant would bring to the city, some in attendance worried the plant would end the same way as previous projects on the site. Examiner Lewis stated that she would not reach a conclusion on the hearing until Tuesday of next week. Reporting in Pocatello, McLean Westbrook, KPVI, news that works for you.
Yeah, the reason they are having to circumvent the normal environmental impact reports is because what experts are saying is that it is disastrous to the environment, to human life, that it all is just complete, blatant, overt, capitalist, colonial extraction. These people understand, they don't even have the shame to be able to like lie that effectively about it. It's like they understand to a certain extent how harmful it is, and that they have to go about all of these underhanded ways to accomplish their projects rather than have public support, because fascism. Okay, so there was that. I did see this video by The Onion that made me laugh. I have not seen it. I just saw it recommended to me. But OpenAI announces construction of new data center on top of sick child. The sad thing is like, this isn't even satire. Like, this is just what is happening. They're like, oh, kids who have asthma, kids who are dying already from all of these sicknesses, or like not able to access a hospital because they're in these healthcare deserts. You mean to tell me that they won't be able to access clean water?
And in tech news, OpenAI launched construction of a new data center in Greenville, Tennessee on top of a sick child today. The artificial intelligence company announced the data center will be positioned in the heart of the small race car-themed bedroom where 8-year-old Billy Treaker fights a rare kidney disease on a daily basis. A ceremonial groundbreaking was held in the third grader's bedroom earlier today. Engineers and surveyors began laying the groundwork for the data center this week, which they say will unleash up to 10 gigawatts of power annually once fully up and running on top of Stan and Rebecca Treaker's only child. OpenAI executives say they plan on expanding out from Billy's sleeping area to his play and reading areas, as well as to the corner of his room where his mother sits in a rocking chair praying for her son's survival every night, all to guarantee ample space for their 10-ton processors to operate. Despite some community pushback, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman says the company won't stop with Billy, announcing the company has plans to build additional data centers on top of a litter of newborn puppies and an
litter of newborn puppies. Oh, before Kristi Noem shoots them, you mean? Also, they are just so incredible with the details at The Onion that they're like, these chyrons that they have, or like other headlines that they have on these news segments that they show. Top news: poll finds fewer young people can see selves watching Rick and Morty in the future. Our future is brightest without Billy. We will never stop innovating and getting better. I even dream of one day opening the largest AI data center on top of a Pee-wee baseball team, celebrating their first win of the season with ice cream. The possibilities are limitless with AI. The same person that's like, people need to be like asking more parenting advice from AI. It's like, what? And then like not too much later, like after he said that, his sister came out and was like, oh, he sexually abused me when I was a kid. Interesting how these abusers seem to have this common thread of abuse throughout their entire lives.
Elderly couples celebrating their 60th wedding anniversary in the park. Critics have also claimed that OpenAI is being short-sighted with the construction plans, given Billy's prognosis to not make it to his 9th birthday. However, Altman assured shareholders today that if Billy dies before construction begins in earnest, the company will instead develop the data center on top of Billy's dying grandmother just 5 blocks down the street. Coming up next, a new twist on an old classic. Oscar Mayer releases its first ever hot dog made of meat. You've seen the news, now touch it with your fingers. To receive your monthly print edition of The Onion, head to membership.theonion.com today. With America's finest news source, the more you pay, the better the news.
Yep. Also, that other recommended video we watched on a different stream, it's so funny. Doctors say digging own grave keeps bones healthy after menopause. Which honestly is like not even that much of satire of like the devaluing of women when they're menopausal, post-menopausal, of like, as long as like your baby making abilities are limited, or you don't have kids, or you can't have kids anymore, then like you're no value to society. That's fascism. Also patriarchy, which, you know, is ingratiated in fascism. Okay. So, continuing this through line and talking about data centers, AOC recently visited a town in Georgia where they were recently building a meta data center for AI, and the water is extremely dirty. She brought this up in Congress, and we need more of this for oversight and people actually bringing attention to what is going on. So we're seeing more people actually focus on this in the media, which is great. But it still is not enough to stop them, which is why we have to keep pushing and organizing and making our voices heard.
While Congress was in recess, I visited Morgan County, Georgia, where Meta is building a massive data center campus. They are clear-cutting forests and began heavy construction, including explosive blasting. And families in the area are starting to see not only their water pressure decrease, to your point about water availability, but their appliances are have all stopped working because it is decimating their water quality. They now rely on bottled water to drink and prepare meals, and nearby residents' water bills are expected to increase by 33%. In fact, I have a jar right here.
Yeah, look at that water.
This is the current drinking water in Morgan County, Georgia.
Insanity.
Right after a data center
Which is
was constructed. The
capitalism.
metadata center was constructed. The only difference between the clean water and this was that data center. I have another one as well. So this wasn't just one well. These wasn't just one family's situation. This is what the drinking water now looks like next to that data center. And I think both of us can agree that neither one of these things are drinkable. These families now have to ship, in a rural area, have to ship water to their house in order to cook and bathe themselves. Now, I'm curious if the EPA plans any investigations on how data centers are affecting water quality and availability. I understand what you said about the rule, but are there going to be any open investigations on this issue?
So as soon as I get back to the office, I will be looking into exactly what you've just talked about, because anywhere, whatever type of construction it is a priority to ensure that water quality standards established by EPA are being met. And so we'll be looking into that certainly.
We'll see if somehow the EPA standards continue to deteriorate.
Of utmost importance, and we're seeing this happening across the country. So a few weeks ago, while Congress was in recess,
that's by More Perfect Union. They do some really great reporting. So this is the last video that I wanted to show with local coverage before we get into Banned Book Club, Reading the Bluest Eye. Incredible art. This is them talking about another data center that Ron DeSantis is trying to cover up. So again, this is just a very omnipresent issue in the entire globe, where we are seeing the rise of all of these data centers, especially in the US, where there is rampant capitalist extraction, where these people are stepping on the gas before elections, especially before there are these changes in the makeup of state and the national legislature, so that they don't have any sort of restraints be put on them. So this is why they are speeding things through, so they can avoid public accountability, so they can avoid all of these environmental impact reports, which, like, by the way, the many people in this organizing group that I'm a part of, Utah Roots, there are a lot of environmentalists and people who are experts on, water and the environment and geology, and that they are coming up with these reports themselves, because once again, we have to hold these people accountable because they will not hold themselves accountable. They're saying that this is devastating in every single aspect of life, in environmental life, for all of the wildlife and plant life and human life in these areas, that it's like, yeah, this is what late stage capitalism is. They don't even care that it's not sustainable to maintain this level of exploitation. It's because they are trying to get as much out of the environment and our labor and extract as much as possible before to get as much money as well before they
of Florida has made a lot of strong statements about protecting citizens from big tech data centers. But when a bill finally passed the state legislature, it stripped out key protections that would have done just that.
The data center is going to create 24/7 noise. This noise travels for miles.
You're looking at the plans for a new hyperscale AI data center called Project Tango, 3.7 million square feet. That's more than 3 times bigger than Elon Musk's Colossus data center. And the data center would be located here, right next to the community of Arden, where about 7,000 people live, and right next to this elementary school, less than 2,000 feet away. We went to a town hall meeting in West
They also
Palm
come up
Beach
with
to
these
hear about
lame
residents'
names like
concerns.
Colossus. Also Project Tango, you're not going to admit that, like, this is a Latina dance form. Meanwhile, these are the same people who are pursuing ethnic cleansing and kidnapping people, sending them to concentration camps, particularly Latina people, but just anyone with melanin in their skin, their political enemies in general. But this is par for the course for white supremacists, where they co-opt all of these various parts of culture and reframe them, use them for their own nefarious means for imposed domination.
That it's going to take to cool this down, and then what are they going to do with all this contaminated water?
This project will affect regional energy demand, grid stability, air quality, traffic operations, water resources, noise, light pollution.
The developer of the project, who won't tell the community which tech company is paying for all this, didn't have a lot of answers. That's because the bill that just passed maintains big tech companies can require local councils to sign non-disclosure agreements, hiding their identities. We reached out to the governor for comment on this story, but we actually never heard back.
Can you please give me one benefit of this community of having a data center right across from the elementary school?
AMA states that long-term noise has negative effects on development, learning, sleep, physical and mental health of adults and especially children.
Given all these concerns, you would think the county and the mayor would want to take their time with this project.
Party of
but before
pedophilia
the community
does
outrage
not
started
care
to build, it really looked
about
like they were
children.
fast-tracking the data center to
That
approve it
has
with
been made
no
very
opportunity
clear.
for public comment. And that makes sense because Mayor Sarah Baxter has taken thousands of dollars in donations from people working for PBA Holdings, the developer, and $25,000 from vocally pro-data center billionaire Stephen Ross, owner of the Miami Dolphins. Meanwhile, the developer is blanketing the community in propaganda, trying to get this project approved.
People are using worst-case examples from other places and asking, will that happen here? And Project Tango was specifically planned to avoid these issues.
Yeah, I have been seeing, like, as I've been posting more, like, uploading VODs and, like, clips to YouTube, more people in my comments being like, actually, this data center is a closed loop. Like what that other, like, fucker with the watch that I was talking about in Pocatello. Like, it's actually a closed loop system, so it's, like, not going to use up more water. It's going to just reuse it. It's like, okay, that water is still going to be contaminated. Also, it's going to be using up to, like, 1 million gallons of water a day a lot of the time. More than, like, 4 billion gallons of water in a year, which is a conservative estimate. And people keep trying to say, like, actually the issue was, like, farmers using up too much water, or it's like people, like, residents using up too much water. Just the same old bullshit arguments that we see from these fascists, where they place the burden on everyday people in the working class to say, like, you need to conserve, you need to recycle, you need to stop polluting, while they are allowed to do it with impunity.
For a little bit, it looked like the state government might help these residents in their fight. But the bill that was passed was ultimately watered down. It maintains local authority to approve or deny these projects, and it has some protections for utility costs. But previous versions created a 5-mile buffer zone around residential areas and schools where data centers couldn't be made. This, of course, would have killed Project Tango and was later removed from the bill. So these residents are on their own. The governor won't be helping them.
I'm concerned about the idea that this is potentially the first of many. You know, you look at Northern Virginia, and their economy has essentially become dependent on that.
Our representatives wish to place all of this in jeopardy for the interests and profiteering of multinational corporations and tech billionaires, and we should never accept this. Thank you.
Juniper's joining
Governor
us.
Ron DeSantis of Florida has made a lot of strong statements about protecting citizens from big tech data centers. But when a bill finally passed the state legislature, it stripped out key protections that would have done just that.
The data center is
Water
going
rights
to
are
create
weird the way they do
24/7
them in some
noise.
places.
This noise
Yeah,
travels
exactly.
for miles.
It's also such an absurd concept in general that's like, who has the right to this water? How does that even make sense? This natural resource. But again, this is what capitalism, global capitalism is that it's the commodifying of every aspect of life on the planet.
You're looking at the plans for a new hyperscale AI data center called Project Tango, 3.7 million square feet. That's more than 3 times bigger than Elon Musk's Colossus data center. And the data center would be located here, right next.
There we go. That is the end of that. Tomorrow we'll get into more about community organizing news, labor organizing happening in Utah, where I'm located, but also just around the world. If you happen to know of anything that is going on around you that you would like me to highlight, I am happy to. I am also working with some local labor organizers to get more information out that all of these bought and sold corporate media outlets are not covering, because we can't trust them to actually cover labor organizing, unionizing, community organizing in an honest, fair-handed way. So, hi. Mm-hmm. There we go. This is Juniper. Sassy. Okay. So, once again, if you're interested in getting involved, you can fill out the volunteer form, especially as we are fighting this all around the world. The more class solidarity that we can build in being a resistant force to this unending capitalist colonial extraction, the better we are off, because they aren't going to stop on their own. We have to stop them. And one of the best ways to do this is by collective organizing, but especially withholding our labor. Okay, shall we get into Banned Book Club, switching gears a bit? Did you step on something? Should I keep shaking or... Oh, I think you have tape, Teeny. Let me get this tape off your foot. Your paw, sorry. Okay. So, for the Bluest Eye, I read up to page 15 in this version, The Bluest Eye by Toni Morrison. It is just an incredible piece of art. We learn in this section, have any of you read it? If so, what did you think about it? Have you read any other works by Toni Morrison? The only thing I've read by her other than this is Beloved, And I've also read excerpts of Jazz, one of her other books. So after the introduction and this foreword that she writes, it is this kind of overview of the story where it's providing symbolism that is a through line throughout the entire novel. So specifically, it mentions marigolds. It immediately sets the scene with the symbolism that happens with marigolds, which we'll go over, but also how that is tied directly into the next sentence. So the first sentence talks about marigolds. The second sentence talks about Piccola, the main character, that she is having her father's baby. And that is why the marigolds did not grow, or why people think the marigolds did not grow. And so it immediately is setting the scene, talking about how there is this abuse going on, and how marigolds are talked about throughout the novel will be a constant reflection on the main character and her relationship to the outside world. But because I'm old-fashioned in this way, I was writing down my notes as I was reading. Okay, so Piccola, like in that same breath, like the first sentence talking about marigolds, they often represent, and this is in many cultures, joy, resilience, innocence, warmth, purity, especially in Diwali, or like in many Desi cultures, especially with Hinduism. Marigolds, especially orange marigolds, are put over people's doorways in Diwali, the holiday of Diwali. Also, they represent purity. They are worn and placed as decorations before weddings to represent purity, but also loyalty and joy to bless a marriage. So it immediately is tying this idea of innocence and stolen innocence with marigolds, the flower, and with Piccola and the situation that she is in. It also is not an accident that marigolds over time, especially as there has been this rise in Hindu nationalism in India, this Hindutva, that marigolds used to represent more of these things. And before they were co-opted by this religious nationalism that is very fascist in nature, they have come to be a symbol that can be ominous to a lot of people, especially people who are Muslim living in India, where it has been a sign of oppression that if you do not conform to this religion of Hinduism, Hindutva specifically, that is ingratiated in the government and imposed by the government, that you are lower in caste and you are not afforded the same rights and dignity. So that also is symbolic, as we were talking about earlier, of like fascists co-opting a lot of these symbols that typically are associated with positive things. Like even going back to like the swastika, like ancient Hindu symbolisms, like Jain symbolisms, that represent peace and prosperity and like community, how that is co-opted, like one of the biggest examples of that, and used for nefarious means, where that is the essence of colonization, of taking something that is completely stripped of its context, stripped of the humanity that and history that is infused in these symbols, and using it for violent means to impose this dominance of human hierarchy. In the holiday of Dia de los Muertos, that it is an ancient Aztec tradition, but also not just with Aztec culture and celebrations, but in other indigenous cultures to Latin America, South America, Central America, that marigolds are used to commemorate the dead, to have this uniting of life and death, where it is an offering to ancestors to show that there is respect, that there is a continuation with life, that we are these living embodiments of our ancestors, that they live through us. And it is this, once again, pretty like ominous symbolism when paired with Pecola's situation in the Bluest Eye, where like her, like this baby that she is being forced to carry from her dad's sexual abuse is an embodiment, quite literally, of ancestors, of like her dad, like living through her, and how it is non-consensual, as opposed to taking it from this other context where marigolds are used to symbolize this unity and, once again, purity. So instead of it representing life and death, that it is, in a positive way, it is turned on its head to represent life in a very harmful manner. And also how like the marigolds are not growing at this time. Marigolds also represent resilience. African marigolds specifically are known to grow the tallest and known to be some of the most resilient types of marigolds, which is a word that often is associated with marginalized people in general, is that like, oh, you're so resilient, or people are so resilient throughout all of these circumstances. And that shouldn't have to be forced on people. That people are in these situations without consent, because, as Bell Hooks says, oppression is having the absence of choices. So we see how Pecola, like, she does not have the choice to not be abused by her father, to not have her father's baby. That is a deeply traumatic experience, and how it is setting the scene for this larger theme of internalized hatred that she develops, and how these systems are imposed on people to teach them, like, oh, you are supposed to think of yourself as inferior rather than, and expect to be resilient. People are expected to be, rather than just human. It also is mentioned in, continuing with marigolds, because I'm a nerd and I love talking about symbolism, and this is also Toni Morrison, who understands all of this shit. Let's see. Oh yeah, so going back to the Dia de los Muertos, that it once again, like, this holiday in and of itself started out as an indigenous holiday, and then through colonization came to align with saints' days, where Catholicism was forcibly, violently imposed on people, and how this is a larger pattern within colonization, where people are changing identity and customs in order to conform forcibly by colonizers and have this identity be stripped away. So that's just in like the first two sentences. That is the genius of Toni Morrison. What is the next couple of sentences? It also opens this section, or the section right after this is called Autumn. And marigolds typically grow in the summer. They're known to be an easy flower, typically for people who are beginning to garden, to grow. So it just goes to show as well that, like, when these marigolds are not able to grow, it's not because there isn't this natural ability for them to grow or the desire of the gardeners to grow, but rather like the circumstances are not letting these flowers grow. I wanted to read this part. I'm just going to read the first paragraph. Quiet as it's kept, there were no marigolds in the fall of 1941. We thought at the time that it was because Pecola was having her father's baby that the marigolds did not grow. A little examination, and much less melancholy, would have proved to us that our seeds were not the only ones that did not sprout. Nobody's did. Not even the gardens fronting the lake showed marigolds that year. But so deeply concerned were we with the health and safe delivery of Picola's baby, we could think of nothing but our own magic. If we planted the seeds and said the right words over them, they would blossom, and everything would be all right. It was a long time before my sister and I admitted to ourselves that no green was going to spring from our seeds. Once we knew, our guilt was relieved only by fights and mutual accusations about who was to blame. For years, I thought my sister was right. It was my fault. I had planted them too far down in the earth. It never occurred to either of us that the earth itself might have been unyielding. We're talking about the circumstances not allowing these flowers to grow, also symbolic of Picola and people who are forced into oppressive situations, that there is a lot of gaslighting and propaganda that goes along with this colonizer's mindset to say, like, oh, you aren't succeeding because you aren't trying hard enough, or you're not doing this, or like people just need to pull themselves up by their bootstraps. They need to say these magic words and do things the quote unquote right way, rather than confronting that these systems are built to be oppressive and built to dehumanize people so they are not able to succeed. That is the goal. That is what maintains this hierarchy of dominance. We had dropped our seeds in our own little plot of black dirt, just as Picola's father had dropped his seeds in his own plot of black dirt. That also, that is so hard-hitting, that sentence, and talking about how that is how the father viewed his daughter, as not, you have to dehumanize people in order to abuse them, to justify the abuse, and also just symbolic of how Picola will come to view herself as being quote unquote dirty and wanting blue eyes rather than celebrating who she is, that she was taught from the beginning that who she is not beautiful, that she deserves to be abused, that she deserves to be in these circumstances. Yeah, I just looked up at that. Yeah. Our innocence and faith were no more productive than his lust or despair. What is clear now is that all of that hope, fear, lust, and love and grief, nothing remains but Picola in the unyielding earth. Charlie Breedlove is dead. Our innocence, too. The seeds shriveled and died. Her baby, too. There is really nothing more to say, except why. But since why is difficult to handle, one must take refuge in how. Yeah, because sometimes, when we engage with the questions of why, which is often one of the questions that kids first ask, the incessant questions of why? And it's a good question to understand why things happen and how the world works. But often there aren't good answers, which is why that question can be so aggravating to adults at times, because there aren't good reasons as to why things happen a lot of the time. And that it forces us to have to confront how deeply unfair the world is, and that we are just forced to exist in a way that we are not comfortable with, that we can't possibly give full consent to, which again is what oppression means, is having the absence of choices. So getting into the first section of Autumn, they first talk about nuns. So they're trying to, just continuing this theme of innocence and the sacred of who is allowed to be innocent, who is allowed to actually engage in things that are viewed as sacred. They are not forced into situations that people deem as being evil or debased, that it's like, okay, these are part of these larger circumstances. That they talk about this girl, this white girl that they would tease, and it's because like she would also tease them, and that she herself, it seems like from the situation they're describing, experienced her own situation of abuse because with this sentence it says we stare at her, wanting her bread, but more than that, wanting to poke the arrogance out of her eyes and smash the pride of ownership that curls her chewing mouth. When she comes out of the car, we will beat her up, make red marks on her white skin, and she will cry and ask us to do we want her do we want her to pull her pants down? We will say no. We don't know what we should feel or do if she does. But whenever she asks us, we know she is offering us something precious, and that our own pride must be asserted by refusing to accept it. So this concept of innocence being stolen, that it is this larger commentary on patriarchy in general, of girls, young women being abused and commodified, being used, not being looked at as people, that this is a concept that is human, that it is not exclusive to certain communities or race, but also that she still had more privilege than the girls in this book, where they're saying like she actually had this nice bread and butter that she was able to eat. And that part of the reason that she was so arrogant is that she felt better about herself and her own circumstances by looking down on these other girls who just happened to have melanin in their skin. It talks about like all of these home remedies that are used, that they are an indication of class as well, of people having limited resources. The continued theme of the color orange is throughout this section, talking about the sky. It also is like, oh, we're talking about autumn. If we're thinking about a place with seasons, which this place, Elyria, Ohio, it is based in, has seasons. It has a fall where there will be like dying leaves that are changing colors, that this orange throughout the book is representing this juxtaposition of life and death, of innocence and innocence being stolen, that like things have to die in order for new life to grow, but also that there are situations that impose this that does not make it a fair circumstance. It's whether it is happening in a consensual manner or not that actually means it's a good or a bad thing. So, for example, it says the dying fire lights in the sky with the dull orange glow. Frida and I lag behind, staring at the patch of color surrounded by black. It is impossible not to feel a shiver when our feet leave the gravel path and sink into the dead grass in the field. So just continuing that theme of like, oh, color in general, or this specific color is viewed as being centered, and that blackness in general is associated with scarcity or lack. And that's just a continued theme throughout the book with this main character and how she views herself. It also starts with this line in the next paragraph. Our house is old, cold, and green. At night, a kerosene lamp lights one large room. And this is in direct contrast to the very first part of the book, where it says it is coming from the Dick and Jane books, these readers that kids learn to read, where it is very Eurocentric, where it is talking about the acquisition of language being directly related to these racial constructs, that as people are developing language, like if we're talking about like a Lacanian a Lacanian way of looking at things, of like having this learning of language be associated with understanding the self and what it means to exist in consciousness, the development of consciousness, that people's consciousness also develops within these racial constructs. So this is an excerpt from the beginning of the book, just to contrast with what that was just saying from these books. Here is the house. It is green and white. It is white. It has a red door. It is very pretty. Here is the family. Mother, father, Dick, and Jane live in the green and white house. They are very happy. See Jane? She has a red dress. She wants to play. So immediately comparing this like idyllic version of what it means to be a family, that it is this very wholesome family unit, and having it be a very jarring contrast to the circumstances that people in this book, but in society at large, especially during this time, were forced to be in. They talk about being sick, also talking about how medicine that they use called the black draught, which was a laxative used at the time, often used to like induce vomiting as well. It also mentions castor oil. Castor oil is something that like is pretty toxic, that people do not recommend using. It used to be something that would be used back in the day to induce labor. So like this idea of like forcing nature in a lot of ways, in ways that are harmful, that are toxic. That this medicine is viewed as being foul, that it actually itself as well is a toxin, as like later studies would show. We see that Frida and Claudia, so Claudia is the narrator in this particular section, she mentions Orange again with her being sick, with her vomiting, of like that also being a concept of you're alive, so you're actually able to vomit, but like vomit is a sign of being sick, of you not being okay, that life is not healthy. Also, it sets up this scene of like the mother being kind of harsh with the girls, but also how it is paired with caretaking. How the mother is harsh, but it is while she is like rubbing Vicks on their chest. She is kind of dressing them down with her language, but also is actively like swaddling them so that they, or Claudia in this situation, that she can break her fever. So here's another excerpt. And in the night, when my coughing was dry and rough, feet padded into the room, hands repinned the flannel, readjusted the quilt, and rested a moment on my forehead. So when I think of autumn, I think of somebody with hands who does not want me to die. So, like, once again, this contrast of, like, autumn being this time of where, like, things are dying, but how there is someone who is taking care of her while this is happening. Hello, Stuart Little is my son. Welcome. The next section starts with, it was autumn too when Mr. Henry came. Our roomer, R-O-O-M-E-R, our roomer, which also is a double entendre of it going into this next section, talking about all of these rumors, R-U-M-O-R, that are surrounding Mr. Henry and his situation. that he is associated with like new beginnings, but also that there is this ominous kind of waiting of like not knowing what he will bring with him, and that also being symbolic of fall, of autumn, of saying like, okay, this is an end and a new beginning, and it's not always known what will happen when there are new beginnings. Okay. So that is that first section. Hopefully that made sense. There are people much smarter than I, more eloquent than I, that talk about this, that I want to show a little bit of tomorrow before we get into talking about community and labor organizing. But yeah, as you can see, I'm like, we need to slow down the pacing of this because there's so much to unpack here. Toni Morrison, rest in power, is just like, we're so lucky to have her art. Oh, there was one last thing that I was going to mention. I guess two things. So like that black draught, that laxative that's used, it's used to like purge, and that is a symbol of Piccola, who develops this internalized racism, feeling like she needs to purge this black identity that she has been racialized into. That like the people around her find beautiful, but she does not. And that the circumstances that she has experienced has led her to feel that way. That normally you would think of a family, like a family unit. This is like what people say is like wholesome and helps people have like a better like start to their life. And it's like, okay, but not all family units are that way. Not all family units are healthy in that way. And also how it is a larger condemnation of the circumstances that even Piccola's father found himself in, of these larger systems of abuse abusing him, and so he then abuses other people to feel better about himself. And how the girls at the beginning of that section that we were talking about would say that they would beat up that white girl, and how they were perpetuating that same type of abuse that they experience, which also just reaffirms the idea that if trauma is not healed, and trauma can't be healed when people are being oppressed and abused, when they're still existing in the circumstances that are hurting them to begin with, that they will perpetuate these systems of abuse. So this is in Elyria, Ohio. There is a place called Elyria in the 12th Night in Shakespeare, and it is spelled differently. So this Elyria is Elyria. The one in Shakespeare is Illyrya in the 12th Night. And it is this sort of like magical realm that is idealized. It is viewed as exotic, which is a very like racially charged word that has been used to justify colonization and tokenization and this fetishizing and eroticizing of people by colonizers to justify oppression. That in and of itself is once again just a symbol for the book at large, of saying like, here is the opportunity, a place that could be a magical place, but also it has been co-opted and colonized in many ways so that people can't actually realize in their everyday lives this idyllic way of existing. Yeah. There we go. If you are interested in continuing with Banned Book Club, we will be doing another review and discussion next week. So we'll be actually finishing this section that I keep saying we will. That is before the chapter, here's the house, it is green and white, it has a red door, it is very pretty, pretty, because it's like a run-on sentence from that Dick and Jane book, or that series. So, yeah, that's where we will reconvene for next week. Once again, it is like heavy subject matter, but also like, so this is Banned Book Club, but one of the reasons why it's banned is because it is talking about this kind of sexual abuse, but also like there are so many kids that grow up that don't even know that what is happening to them is abuse. That there are other people that experience similar circumstances when they are made to feel all this shame and self-hatred and blame, when in actuality the circumstances are way beyond their control, and there are these symptoms of these larger forms of systemic abuse. So, this is the first book that Toni Morrison wrote, and she said in many interviews that this is the book that she wanted to read, that she kept looking for this book for her to read, and she wasn't able to find it, like where especially young Black girls were centered and having to navigate the world that they were forced to exist in. And it just is so profound. This is my like nerdy literature side. But I guess that side is like never in. It's not ever in the closet. Sounds incredibly powerful. Yeah, it really is, like, not to like be cheesy, but this is really how I feel. Like, reading this kind of art that is so profound really is a privilege. That like we get to read Toni Morrison's words in the way she intended, and that they are still with us in a way that like other art forms don't necessarily translate sometimes. Like when you are reading something, this is again my bias for like books, like when you're reading something, it's like an actual internalizing of words from a page that you like have to process in your own mind, where it like actually has to like be inside yourself and your mind in order to be comprehended. And that is like a very intimate way to consume art, where like we're getting her thoughts transing, which same, into our minds. And that is just amazing. So, there we go. That's Banned Book Club. We went from a wide variety of emotions on the stream. But there you go. That's what we do here, I guess. Oh, cute. Okay, so moving on to other literature that is not nearly as profound. We're reading The Scarlet Pimpernel, which I call aristocratic propaganda. I think it's especially important to talk about its use of tropes that are harmful to justify the existence of aristocracy and these hierarchies of human dignity, that you will see very clearly the vast chasm of talent that exists between someone like Toni Morrison, who in my mind is just a genius, like one of the best writers of like all time. And I don't say that lightly. And also Miss Baroness Orsi. Yeah, I put on gloves because I don't want to ruin my books. I should have put on gloves for this. But with like putting it up and down so many times, I'm like, okay, I'm not going to get it too sweaty, which is why I wear them. I need to do that for next week. So this is The Scarlet Pimpernel by Baroness Orsi. And just as a fun fact, one of the ways she even got the idea for this book is because her dad, who has a title in Hungary and had multiple estates, that he was trying to modernize his land and his profits to make it so that he was able to extract more from the land and make even more money. And how the workers on the land were worried that they were going to be replaced by these machines, and they started to be. And they tried to organize and ask for working conditions that wouldn't just eliminate their jobs. And of course, the dad was not open to this. Like, it says this very clearly, like in the histories about Baroness Orsi and her life, that like they were very peaceful about it, which like also talking about like peaceful protest and stuff that can fall in line with a lot of oppressive systems, that they don't want us to pursue anything that would fall outside of that. But they tried to bargain. They tried to actually have more humane circumstances for themselves that they were advocating for these workers. And once they started to see their jobs be eliminated, that they were laid off, that their livelihoods were being taken away, they started to deface the property. And which is not a form of violence, to be clear. That's just giving capital a makeover, in my mind. But that is what gave her this idea for the book, is that she was like, oh, these ruffians, I'm so scared. My whole family had to leave this estate to go to another estate. That's like, okay, you do realize that the people you are laying off don't have anywhere else to go. Okay? And so that started this idea to be like, oh, the French Revolution was so cruel to aristocrats. Not ever mentioning the circumstances that the aristocrats were benefiting from and regularly exploiting, that they created these systems in order to maintain this hierarchy, that they are not taking any sort of accountability, and just completely ignoring the fact that people are driven to these forms of protest and resistance and eventually revolution because they are so exploited and they don't have choices. Because again, as I mentioned before, as Bell Hooks says, oppression is the absence of choices. Giving capital a makeover is like, that's how I view it. It's like, oh, that's the only time they care, clearly. And it led her to write this poorly written novel. But we have a lot to learn from it. So this is me taking a deconstructive lens through Marxism. And you'll also see that there are some deeply anti-Semitic tropes that are used. Baroness Orsi was a Nazi sympathizer at the beginning of World War II, and then it became unfashionable. She was like, oh, I don't agree with the excesses. That's like, okay, fuck you, lady. But also, again, that I like to reiterate, as we are seeing rise in anti-Semitism, especially in the US, especially with these far-right parties, that there is the conflation of Zionism with Judaism, and this is done and perpetuated by the genocidal Israeli government, and how we need to actually understand what anti-Semitism is, that it has to be called out for what it is, and that saying that, like, people shouldn't be displaced and genocided for existing in their homeland, that is not anti-Semitic. Okay, so this is chapter 27, On the Track. Never for a moment did Marguerite Blakeney hesitate. Oh, and by the way, she has a main character that is a class traitor in a bad way. She left the working class to marry into the aristocracy, the titled class, which was not a possibility at the time. That just didn't happen. So it is this fantasy that Baroness Orsi is engaging in to manufacture consent and sympathy for aristocracy and their dominance, rather than acknowledging that the working class actually deserves human dignity. So just the tokenization has to be called out. That once she gets a title and is wealthy because her husband is the wealthiest man in England, second to the prince, that once she has access to wealth and power, but she still is existing in patriarchy and is constantly talked about as a child in like a way that's supposed to endear us to her. So like continuing these systems of oppression that are upholding all of the bullshit, that once she acquires all of these things, she immediately becomes a class traitor. Never for a moment did Marguerite Blakeney hesitate. The last sounds outside the Chat Gris had died away in the last night. She had heard Degas giving orders to his men, and then starting off towards the fort to get a reinforcement of 12 more men. 6 were not thought sufficient to capture the cunning Englishman, whose resourceful brain was even more dangerous than his valor and his strength. And he's constantly talked about as like being brave and that he cares so much for his fellow man, but it's like, okay, emphasis on man and emphasis on fellow, because we aren't talking about extending it towards other classes. It's just sympathy for your own class. When a few minutes later, she heard the Jew's husky voice again. See, he is not even referred to as having a name, just this racialized identity that is used to justify oppression. Evidently shouting to his nag, then the rumble of wheels and noise of a rickety cart bumping over the rough road. Inside the inn, everything was still. Brogard and his wife, terrified of Chauvelin, had given no sign of life. They'd hoped to be forgotten, and at any rate to remain unperceived. Marguerite could not even hear their usual volleys of muttered oaths. That, again, is so funny to me, where, like, she constantly is portraying the working class as, like, just, like, having no manners and, like, just swearing all the time, that they have no respect. And it's like, yeah, they're not giving into your idiotic system of human hierarchy. She waited a moment or two longer. Then she quietly slipped down the broken stairs, wrapped her dark cloak closely round her, and slipped out of the inn. The night was fairly dark, sufficiently so at any rate to hide her dark figure from view, whilst her keen ears kept count of the sound of the cart going on ahead. She hoped by keeping well within the shadow of the ditches which lined the road, that she would not be seen by Degas' men when they approached, or by the patrols which she concluded were still on duty. Thus she started to do this, the last stage of her weary journey, alone at night and on foot, nearly 3 leagues to Miquelon, and then on to Père Blanchard's hut, wherever that fatal spot might be, probably over rough roads, she cared not.
Oh, the sacrifice! A rich, noble class woman actually walking on foot! The horror!
The Jew's nag could not get on very fast. See, it continues. This is anti-Semitism. And though she was weary with mental fatigue and nerve strain, she knew that she could easily keep up with it on a hilly road, where the poor beast, who was sure to be half-starved, would have to be allowed long and frequent rests. The road lay some distance from the sea, bordered on either side by shrubs and stunted trees, sparsely covered with meager foliage, all turning away from the north, with their branches looking in the semi-darkness like stiff, ghostly hair blown by a perpetual wind. Fortunately, the moon showed no desire to peep between the clouds, and Marguerite, hugging the edge of the road and keeping close to the low line of shrubs, was fairly safe from view. Everything around her was so still, only from very, very far away, there came like a long soft moan. Oh. Sorry. The sound of the distant sea. The air was keen and full of brine. After that enforced period of inactivity inside the evil-smelling, squalid inn, so once again, just like demonizing, like quite literally, poverty, saying it's evil, and not like, maybe it's because your class and your husband's class imposed these conditions, bitch. Marguerite would have enjoyed the sweet scent of this autumnal night, and the distant melancholy rumble of the waves. She would have reveled in the calm and stillness of this lonely spot, a calm broken only. Hi. She just ate. I don't know if you could hear that meow. She would have reveled in the calm and stillness of this lonely spot, a calm broken only at intervals by the strident and mournful cry of some distant gull, and by the creaking of the wheels some way down the road. She would have loved the cool atmosphere, the peaceful immensity of nature in this lonely part of the coast. But her heart was too full of cruel foreboding, of a great ache and longing for a being who had become infinitely dear to her, which he only became dear to her once she, found out that he was the Scarlet Pimpernel. She didn't really care about him before. Her feet slipped on the grassy bank, for she thought it safest not to walk near the center of the road, and she found it difficult to keep up a sharp pace along the muddy incline. She even thought it best to not keep too near to the cart. Everything was so still that the rumble of the wheels could not fail to be a safe guide. The loneliness was absolute. Already the few dim lights of Calais lay far behind, and on this road there was not a sign of human habitation, not even the hut of a fisherman or of a woodcutter anywhere near. Far away on her right was the edge of the cliff, below it the rough beach, against which the incoming tide was dashing itself with its constant, distant murmur. And ahead, the rumble of the wheels, bearing an implacable enemy to his triumph. Marguerite wondered at what particular spot on this lonely coast Percy would be at this moment. Not very far, surely, for he had had less than a quarter of an hour's start of Chauvelin. She wondered if he knew that in this cool, ocean-scented bit of France, there lurked many spies, all eager to sight his tall figure, to track him to where his unsuspecting friends waited for him, and then to close the net over him and them. Chauvelin on ahead, jolted and jostled in the Jew's vehicle, was nursing comfortable thoughts. So, again, anti-Semitism. We don't get a name for someone who is constantly being racialized. He rubbed his hands together with content as he thought of the web which he had woven. This is why it's so unoriginal and boring. She constantly is Chauvelin kept rubbing his bony hands together. That's oh, he's such a villain for wanting dignity for the working class. And also, maybe his hands are bony because he can't afford food, bitch. He rubbed his hands together with content as he thought of the web which he had woven, and through which that ubiquitous and daring Englishman could not hope to escape. As the time went on, and the old Jew drove him leisurely, But surely along the dark road, he felt more and more eager for the grand finale of this exciting chase after the mysterious Scarlet Pimpernel. The capture of the audacious plotter would be the finest leaf in Citoyen Chauvelin's wreath of glory. Caught red-handed on the spot, in the very act of aiding and abetting the traitors against the Republic of France, the Englishman could claim no protection from his own country. Chauvelin had, in any case, fully made up his mind that all intervention should come too late. Never for a moment did the slightest remorse ever enter his heart as to the terrible position in which he had placed the unfortunate wife who had unconsciously betrayed her husband.
Oh, the ultimate sin of patriarchy is betraying your husband. Oh!
As a matter of fact, Chauvelin had ceased even to think of her. She had been a useful tool, that was all. The Jew's lean nag did little more than walk. She was going along at a slow jog trot, and her driver had to give her long and frequent halts. So, again, the anti-Semitism continues, but it also is this other anti-Semitic trope that is being applied here, where she is implying that this person who is Jewish, who happens to be Jewish, is intentionally starving his horse because he is miserly and not wanting to spend money, which is a consistent anti-Semitic trope that has been used for years and years to justify the oppression of Jewish people through systematic means. Instead of actually acknowledging that people were forced into conditions and that maybe they were not allowed to be making enough money to actually feed their horses in a manner that they would like to.
Are we a long way yet from Miquelon? Asked Chauvelin from time to time.
Not very far, Your Honor, was the uniform, placid reply.
We have not yet come across your friend and mine, lying in a heap in the roadway, was Chauvelin's sarcastic comment.
Patience, noble excellency, rejoined the son of Moses. Oh my god. Also, just continually having this person, like, putting words in his mouth of just, like, constant subservience, which is really gross. They are ahead of us. I can see the imprint of the cart wheels driven by that traitor, the son of the Amalekite. Like, she doesn't understand anything about Jewish identity, clearly.
You are sure of the road?
As sure as I am of the presence of those 10 gold pieces in the noble excellency's pockets. Like, obsession with money, once again, an anti-Semitic trope. Which I trust will presently be mine.
As soon as I have shaken hands with my friend, the tall stranger, they will certainly be yours.
Hark, what was that? Said the Jew suddenly. Again, we don't get a name. Through the stillness which had been absolute, there could now be heard distinctly the sound of horses' hoofs on the muddy road. They are soldiers, he added in an odd whisper.
Stop a moment, I want to hear, said Chauvelin.
Marguerite had also heard the sound of galloping hoofs coming toward the cart and towards herself. For some time she had been on the alert, thinking that Degas and his squad... Whoa. Just like started swallowing that word. Degas and his squad would soon overtake them. But these came from the opposite direction, presumably from Miquelon. The darkness lent her sufficient cover. She had perceived that the cart had stopped, and with utmost caution, treading noiselessly on the soft road, she crept a little nearer. Her heart was beating fast. She was trembling in every limb. Already she had guessed what news these mounted men would bring. Every stranger on these roads or on the beach must be shadowed. Oh, yeah. Especially if he be tall or stoops as if he would disguise his height. When sighted, a mounted messenger must at once ride back and report. Those had been Chauvelin's orders. Had then the tall stranger been sighted, and was this the mounted messenger come to bring the great news that the hunted hare had run its head into the noose at last? Marguerite, realizing that the cart had come to a standstill, managed to slip nearer to it in the darkness. She crept close up, hoping to get within earshot, to hear what the messenger had to say. She heard the quick words of challenge, Liberté, fraternité, égalité! Then Chauvelin's quick query. Same. Even though that means a question. What news? 2 men on horseback had halted beside the vehicle. Marguerite could see them silhouetted against the midnight sky. She could hear their voices and the snorting of their horses, and now behind her, some little distance off, the regular and measured tread of a body of advancing men, Degas and his soldiers. There had been a long pause, during which, no doubt, Chauvelin satisfied the men as to his identity, for presently questions and answers followed each other in quick succession. "You have seen the stranger?" asked Chauvelin eagerly. "No, citoyenne, we have seen no tall stranger. We came by the edge of the cliff." "Then, less than a quarter of a league beyond Miquelon, we came across a rough construction of wood, which looked like the hut of a fisherman, which he might keep his tools and nets. When we first sighted it, it seemed to be empty, and at first we thought that there was nothing suspicious about it until we saw some smoke issuing through the aperture at the side. I dismounted and crept close to it. It was then empty, but in one corner of the hut there was a charcoal fire, and a couple of stools were also in the hut. I consulted with my comrades, and we decided that they should take cover with the horses well out of sight, and that I should remain on the watch, which I did." So that's where the aristocrats who are hiding that this, the Scarlet Pimpernel is going to rescue from the clutches of the French Revolution. "Well, and did you see anything?" "About half an hour later, I heard voices, citoyenne, and presently 2 men came along towards the edge of the cliff. They seemed to me to have come from the Lille road. One was young, the other quite old. They were talking in a whisper to one another, and I could not hear what they said." One was young, the other quite old. Marguerite's aching heart almost stopped beating as she listened. Was the young one Armand, her brother, and the old one de Tournay? Were they the 2 fugitives who unconsciously were used as a decoy to entrap their fearless and noble rescuer? Noble? I mean, noble only in title. "The 2 men presently went into the hut," continued the soldier, whilst Marguerite's aching nerves seemed to catch the sound of Chauvelin's triumphant chuckle. "And I crept nearer to it then. The hut is very roughly built, and I caught snatches of their conversation." "Yes? Quick! What did you hear?" "The old man asked the young one if he were sure that that was the right place. 'Oh, yes,' he replied, ''tis the place, sure enough,' and by the light of the charcoal fire he showed his companion a paper which he carried. 'Here is the plan,' he said, 'which he gave me before I left London. We were to adhere strictly to that plan unless I had contrary orders, and I have had none. Here is the road we followed, see? Here the fork, here we cut across the Saint-Martin road, and here is the footpath, which brought us to the edge of the cliff.' I must have made a slight noise then, for the young man came to the door of the hut and peered anxiously all around him. When he again joined his companion, they whispered so low that I could no longer hear them." "Well, and?" asked Chauvelin patiently. "There were 6 of us altogether patrolling that part of the beach, so we consulted together and thought it best that the 4 should remain behind and keep the hut in sight, and I and my comrade rode back at once to make report of what we had seen." "You saw nothing of the tall stranger?" "Nothing, citoyenne." "If your comrades see him, what would they do?" "Not lose sight of him for a moment, and if he showed signs of escape, or any boat came in sight, they would close in on him, and, if necessary, they would shoot. The firing would bring the rest of the patrol to the spot. In any case, they would not let the stranger go." "Aye, but I did not want the stranger hurt, not just yet," murmured Chauvelin savagely. "But there, you've done your best. The fates grant that I may not be too late. We've met 6 men just now who have been patrolling this road for several hours." "Well, they have seen no stranger either." "Yet he is on ahead somewhere, or in a cart, or else— Here, there is not a moment to lose. How far is that hut from here?" "About a couple of leagues, citoyenne." "You can find it again, at once, without hesitation?" "I have absolutely no doubt, citoyenne." "The footpath to the edge of the cliff, even in the dark?" It is not a dark night, citoyen, and I know I can find my way, repeated the soldier firmly. Fall in behind, then. Your comrade take both your horses back to Calais. You won't want them. Keep beside the cart and direct the Jew to drive straight ahead. Again. So he doesn't have a name? Then stop him, and within a quarter of a league of the footpath, see that he takes the most direct road. While Chauvelin spoke, Degas and his men were fast approaching, and Marguerite could hear their footsteps within 100 yards behind her now. She thought it safe to stay where she was, and unnecessary, too, as she had heard enough. She seemed suddenly to have lost all faculty, even for suffering. Her heart, her nerves... Suffering? What do you know about suffering, bitch? Her nerves, her brain, seemed to have become numb after all these hours of ceaseless anguish, culminating in this awful despair. Oh, that's nothing compared to these poor people who have to endure starvation. For now, there was absolutely not the faintest hope. Within 2 short leagues of this spot, the fugitives were waiting for their brave deliverer. He was on his way, somewhere on this lonely road, and presently he would join them. Then the well-laid trap would close. 24 men, led by one whose hatred was as deadly as his cunning was malicious, would close round the small band of fugitives, and their daring leader. They would all be captured. Armand, according to Chauvelin's pledged word, would be restored to her, but her husband, Percy, whom with every breath she drew seemed to love and worship more and more, he would fall into the hands of a remorseless enemy, who had no pity for a brave heart, no admiration for the courage of a noble soul. Pfft. For whom, though, is he brave? Who would show nothing but hatred for the cunning antagonist who had baffled him so long. She heard the soldier giving a few brief directions to the Jew, again. Then she retired quickly to the edge of the road and cowered behind some few low shrubs, whilst Degas and his men came up. All fell in noiselessly behind the cart, and slowly they all started down the dark road. Marguerite waited until she reckoned that they were well outside the range of earshot. Then she too, in the darkness, which suddenly seemed to have become more intense, crept noiselessly along. Oh. We have 4 more chapters till we're done. And then after this, as a major palate cleanser from this aristocratic bullshit and anti-Semitism, we will read the Communist Manifesto, because I think we need that. We need that more than ever these days. All right, that's going to be it for me today. But tomorrow we'll finish up with hearing more from people on the Bluest Eye, people who are academics who study this and who can speak more to the symbolism and the historicity of the novel, The Bluest Eye. And then we'll get into education and news about community and labor organizing. All right. That's going to be it for me. But thank you for being here. Oh, thanks you. Thanks you. Thanks, Tan. Thank you, Tan. And thank you, Bounce House. Thank you for sticking around for the roller coaster of topics and emotions. I appreciate you all. Thank you for being here. It was lovely chatting with you all. Thanks for the raid. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, wherever you are. And, oh, how about, for those who are still on, is there a raid that we could do? There's someone that brought up androgynous water. I've seen some of their content. And draw. Why is that not coming up? Maybe they just aren't on. That's probably what's happening. If there is anyone that you think we should raid that doesn't have egregious politics, oh, here's someone saying Marx tried to warn us, but we did not listen. Taylor X Live. Animated Sarah. Ooh. Cool. Let's do that. Let's join their stream. They're watching Gianmarco. Love him. Okay, let's do it. Thank you for being here. It was lovely chatting with you all. I hope you have a good rest of your day, evening, and hopefully I will see you soon. I always have some trade. I love it. Thank you. Okay, bye.